Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Rich by Monday podcast. I'm your host, Jared Wilkins, aka the Google grad.
You about to get robbed?
Nah, I heard the baby choking. I had to make.
You look like you was about to get robbed. You're like, is
I
that my
heard the
front door
baby.
getting
I
kicked
heard the
in?
baby coughing, and that's I had to make sure it wasn't.
You look like the
My
bulls is after you. Like, hold on.
my parental instincts kicked in.
Is that my, is that my door? We under attack.
Like damn, I knew Siri was listening. Damn.
Right. FBI, that's you. It's ridiculous.
Oh man, she start coughing like, and she's so dramatic. Every time she coughs, it's like it sounds like it's the end. So,
Right. Like, what is this?
yeah, my bad. Go ahead and introduce yourself, man. Go ahead, let the people know who you are.
Yeah. Before we were rudely interrupted by the FBI raid, I am your your other host, Lawrence Creighton. Thank you for joining us again.
Welcome back. This episode, what, 18? Yeah,
18.
18. So what I was thinking, low key, was I was kind of thinking, I actually kind of stole this idea from Shaun because I was talking to Shaun and a while back, and he was telling me like,
Shout out to Contrarians podcast.
yeah, the Contrarians podcast, him and Joe West. And he mentioned about how he wanted to do like seasons.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So like what they have now is like first season. And then like when they
Mm.
come back, it'd be like second season or whatever.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's a good
And
idea.
so I was kind of, I kind of pondered on that for a while, like how to incorporate it into what we do, or if it's even possible to do that. And I was thinking maybe we could. Like, so I was thinking, what if we did, because our benchmark, of course, was like 30 shows.
Right.
So I was thinking, like, what if we did 30 and then took like, like 2 weeks off, 3 weeks off to get the rest of our shit together, like, for the show, and then come back with like season 2. And then that way it's like we have 30 shows in the archive of like me and you.
Right.
Right. And then like season 2 could be where we kind of open up the door to bring in more of the people that we know.
Right. Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, why 30 though?
I just know that was our benchmark.
Right. Yeah, I mean, 30 seems like a season.
Yeah.
It's usually like 30 shows.
I mean, that's like 60, probably, well, depending on how many hours our shows are, that's probably close to 100 hours of content.
Yeah. Yeah, at least.
You know what I mean? So it's like 100 hours of content, and then we come back, and that gives people kind of like a foundation of what the show is, who we are. And then that way when we oh, my baby's still choking.
Yo, FBI back. Now they had it kicked in the back door. Man.
I gotta make sure, man. But yeah, so it's like 100 hours of content. And so yeah. So
for the uninitiated, they gotta listen to the first 30 episodes first. And then they can go on to the second season.
Yeah, I mean that way it's like you get an idea of kind of like who we are, where our thoughts lie on certain matters. And then when you hear other episodes that include other people, then you don't have to go back and listen, or it'd be easier to go back and listen to why we're having the conversations we're having.
Right.
And I feel like because we know a lot of different people, and there's a lot of people I'd like to introduce who just have like, dope stories, and they're just a part of everything we talk about.
Right.
And, but I also want to make sure, like, on the front end, that we do our part to kind of solidify like the brand identity, the foundation.
it'd be nice to get to archive some other stories with people we know. That'll be dope. And then we were also working on well, Jared's been working diligently on the next phase of our look, which is coming pretty soon.
I'm just trying to get it all together. So once we're in a spot, a position of like, we can take it to the next level. A lot of these
Mm-hmm.
processes are already in place.
Right, right.
You know what I'm saying? So, in business, of course, the easiest way to grow your business is to replace yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to make duplicatable systems, and have them ready so that when we do grow and we want to hire an editor or hire anyone, really,
Mm-hmm.
the system is already in place. It's just plug and play. Like, I just need you to come in
Yeah,
and do dot dot dot.
yeah. The template already be there, be made.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so that for me, that's the biggest thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
just making sure a lot of that is in place already. Um,
Yep.
so that
What
way
you
somebody
need?
can
You need a
just step
system
in.
like McDonald's.
Yeah,
You know, they make the burger the same way.
yeah. I need you to come be a fry cook.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? Like,
You need to
I
cook it
gotta
on three sides.
I gotta know how to I
Three
gotta know how to cook
sides.
the fries first. You know?
Right. I feel that.
So what's been going on, man? I know it's been a couple days. I just seen you yesterday, but
Right.
what's been,
Yeah, that
what's
would be
been,
one day. That
what's
would
been,
make one day.
no podcast today.
Right. Yeah, I
Yeah,
seen you
so it's
yesterday, so um, not as much. I mean, this last week I was really working on getting some offers accepted. It's actually pretty interesting that a few clients I have they've owned their properties for 20 plus years, so they're in that transition phase where um, now they amassed a certain amount of wealth or equity,
mm-hmm,
and it's time to find a next investment.
mm-hmm,
So, and it's it's their first time doing that, so um, those type of transitions I take very seriously. So I've been really busy over the last few 2 weeks, about two
mm-hmm,
weeks, trying to make sure we secure a buyer for their property and then their replacement property. So, and then this week actually we secured offers on both their properties and found replacement property. So that was good. So that's been like my last week, really.
That's what's up. We don't have the sound effects right now, but I'm playing a clapping,
Right.
an applause
Bam,
sound
bam,
effect.
bam.
I mean, do
Right.
you want to disclose one of them? Because I feel like it's pretty
Uh,
significant. You don't have to
I
say
think I
like the
think I'm gonna tell that
details.
story later.
Okay.
I
All
don't know if
right.
I'm
Well then.
ready to tell it now, but
All right.
it's basically that seller started my whole career basically,
Yeah.
and so I'll probably tell that story another time.
All right. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
actually got a call from because I I didn't even get to tell you. So there's a broker. He's an older black guy, older black
Mm-hmm.
gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he's like one of the like the elder statesmen in the
Mm-hmm.
broker community, at least from like in as far as African Americans go
Right.
out here. And he recently passed. So
Mm.
um and I actually connected with a couple years ago. I connected with someone who I didn't know at the time, but someone who was like one of his like longest friends or something.
Mm-hmm.
um they've been knowing each other for 45 years.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah, he's a former assemblyman.
Mm-hmm.
So and I forgot which district that he was over, but I'm not gonna say his name because he got into some stuff there and doing that, and I don't want to make it seem like I'm trying to
Promote.
disqualify him for that,
Oh,
because he's
okay.
he's not that happened, but like he's not that. You know what I mean? Like, he's not his mistakes, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so anyway, so me and him have always been cool. He's like a really, really small mom and pop apartment owner. He owns like one 5-unit building,
Mm-hmm.
and we were doing a lot of work together when Inglewood was trying to introduce their rent control policy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we had talked before, but that's when we like actually started to begin to build a relationship because we were
Right.
using each other's resources. You
Right.
know, we were teaming up with other city council members, apartment associations, meeting up with other apartment owners, and that's how I met the other broker. His name is Malcolm Bennett,
Mm. Okay.
and he was the founder of the Inglewood African Americans. Oh no, that African American Apartment Association in Inglewood, and
Mm-hmm.
then also the Inglewood Apartment Owners Association. So he was the founder of both.
Mm. Okay.
So many of the people that I've dealt with knew him, and they
Yeah.
were part of his group even before I even knew it existed.
Right. Right. Right.
They knew him. And so I met him a couple times. We always talked. He always kept me in the loop because he was, of course, he's been around longer than me. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
he got a lot of information before I would get it
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, and he would always keep me in the loop.
Right.
But anyway, he recently passed.
Mm-hmm.
So um, I had actually got a call from the lady who I always talk about, especially on this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and I was talking to her about it, and she knows him. She's part of the group, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think for her, that moment and then everything that's been happening over the last, like, say, I don't know, 12 months, I think
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things are starting to hit home for her,
Mm.
right? Because she's like 90. So I think a lot of things are starting to hit home because she has tenants who she's been giving discounts to, for rent.
Right.
And they're kind of taking advantage of her, and she
And
knows it.
been taking advantage for years.
Yeah. But now it's like blatant,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now it's like, she would specifically rent a unit to, like, she's one of those people where it's like, okay, say you have a relative who needs a place to stay, trying to, they're trying to get back on their feet. They got a little,
Mm-hmm.
part-time job, maybe they got a family.
Mm-hmm.
She's the one that's like, oh, call so and so. She might have somewhere for you to stay. Like, she's that kind of person in
Right.
the
Right.
in the
Right. You're gonna
neighborhood.
put them up
Yeah.
somewhere.
And she's got some tenants staying in a like a 2-bedroom townhome unit for like 1050.
Mm. So they're just way under market. It's been like that for years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've been there for 14 years.
Wow. Same rent.
Yep. Well, no,
Yeah.
it's gone up, but it's still
Still
way
under
under.
market.
Yeah.
Right.
And
So what should something like that rent for?
in where that property specifically is,
All right.
I mean, probably, like, if it was fully renovated, probably like 25, 26.
Mm-hmm.
It's a townhome unit. You know what I mean? Like, it's basically a house.
Right.
Um, any new construction that's going up like that is over 3,000.
Yeah, for sure.
So two bed units in North Inglewood rent for $2,000 all day, $2,000 to
Mm.
2,400. So hers is just older. It's not, it is what it is. It's an older unit, but even if she spent like 30 grand to renovate the unit, she could easily get like 2,500. Because it has a garage, all that kind of stuff, right? Um,
So what's been her feelings since we don't ever get the the owner side of it. And I was just talking to somebody today, and they were saying like they were mentioning about how people are getting evicted now. A lot of people are going to lose their spaces, and which is very sad, right? It's a tragic thing, especially when it had nothing to do with you if you lose your job or etc. or they cut your hours. And then I mentioned that yeah, that is sad. And I said, the homeowners or apartment owners or whoever owns that building, they also can't pay their mortgage.
mhm.
And I said that, and I was like, oh, I didn't think about it from that perspective.
Of course not.
And I'm like, yeah, not making a huge point about it, but there's two sides of it. And just by mentioning that one thing, she immediately was like, you know what, they should do something for both, like for both the renters and the owner. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
yes. So I think it's just it has to be someone who just brings up like, hey, what about this also? You know, because there's always two sides, sometimes three sides to the story. So
No, I mean
um,
it is.
I thought it was
It,
interesting that that immediately clicked just by mentioning that. You know, not by standing on the soapbox or saying or yelling or you know, it was
I don't
just
think people. I
immediate
don't think.
people get it.
I don't think people associate
If they're presented with the information, I think they get it. You know,
some of them. Some of them, yeah. But I just don't think people directly associate that type of property with a human being.
yeah, for sure.
And like of course, politics allows them to do that because
Mm-hmm.
they've been able to vilify anybody who owns property and make them seem like it's unattainable unless you're this super wealthy rich person, right?
Right.
And so they don't attach that to their neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like somebody could live on the same block. They could have a little 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom house on the same block that they own a 10-unit apartment building on,
Mm-hmm. It's
right?
just the guy or the lady down the street.
Exactly. So they
They
don't
might be
I
out there just watering their grass every morning.
I don't think they associate that unless you know the owner directly. I don't think the average person is going to associate that situation with a person who has feelings. They're more so thinking about it as this is a company,
Right.
right? And thinking that a company is just a piece of paper. That's all it is.
Yeah.
But
Well, in some
they
cases, they do have a middle person, which is the property manager, and that manager or that management company might seem more corporate, like a corporate entity, where it does seem less human. And in many cases, yeah, they're just doing their job. But a lot of the time, there's single everyday mom and pop owners
true.
who hire those companies. So I can see how it can appear that way if you don't know how the business of real estate works.
Yeah. Which most people don't.
Yeah, which I get.
They don't.
But yeah, these are usually just people,
She
everyday
she
people.
she's been having some issues for a while. And it's one of those things where things are just starting to click,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because of all the attention that's coming to the market and all the money that's coming into the market. And so beforehand, when she's thinking I'm doing a favor, I'm providing affordable housing for, you know, for the area because that's what she's been doing for 30 years, 30 or 40 years.
Right.
But now you're inheriting disgruntled tenants
Mm-hmm.
because you're the only thing they can afford,
Right. Yeah.
right? So
Then
now
it's the whole conversation. Where do I go from
so
here?
they're resenting you because of their experience other places. So they're coming to you. You're thinking, okay, I'm helping out my people, or I'm helping out these people, or the city, whatever. But they're coming in already resenting you because of the idea they've shaped in their head,
Mm-hmm.
which is driven by political narratives,
Mm-hmm.
right? So she's
Now, I'm
a lot of
sure
stuff is just clicking. It's
I'm
just
sure that's
clicking
not
for
the
her.
scenario for every renter,
No,
but I mean that's for sure the one that we're usually presented with, for sure on social media. Because I know there's a lot of people who want to pay their rent, and for whatever reason they can't. Um, so I mean, it's a spectrum. It's a spectrum of people that's going on. So it's hard to kind of box everyone. You know, when we
yes and
talk
no.
generally in a conversation.
Yes and no. The only reason why I say yes and no, and I don't know every market. Every market is different. But
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you just in the markets that I cover, which is a large portion of South LA, right?
Mm-hmm.
From the borders of Los Angeles down to the South Bay, that the majority of the owners are mom and pop owners.
Mm-hmm.
They're not corporate owners.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I'm talking about
So
in terms of the tenant profile. You believe the tenant profile there, mostly, or if not all, or try to take advantage of the owners there, the mom and pop owners.
no, it's
That's what I'm speaking to.
yeah, okay. So that makes sense then. So in certain areas, in very specific areas, yes,
Mm-hmm.
because socially they're allowed to.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't feel wrong about it
Mm-hmm.
based on certain groups. They don't feel wrong about it because of events that have happened within our country like historically. So they
Mm-hmm.
feel entitled to these types of things, not realizing they're stealing from their own people.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes
It
sense.
is it is there a large like Section 8 vouchers in that area?
Well, I mean, the line for Section 8 is, I mean,
So if you have like, let's say there's 100 properties, how many are Section 8? Not exact numbers, but I know some markets, most of them are Section 8.
it's a small percentage though, but the reason is because there it is so expensive. Okay, so if you have a building that was built in say like 1950,
Mm-hmm.
if you go and get a Section 8 tenant, you're going to have to make renovations to fit
Mm-hmm.
to be in compliance,
Right.
right? But then what happens is when they make it so expensive to build anything because of all the compliance issues and everything like that, um, seismic upgrades, all these things, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, they're not that that strict.
Out
I've
here
seen.
in LA,
Well, I'm not sure about LA.
in LA is bad, bro. They'll
Like really
like,
strict.
yeah, they'll fine you for the smallest thing. It only takes
Mm.
one person to tell on you. Like,
They probably know the numbers too. Like, oh,
that's
okay,
all
you're
it
not gonna fix
takes.
this. All right.
So if you don't make these upgrades, you can't have Section 8 tenants.
Mm-hmm.
But then it becomes so expensive to build where there aren't that many properties being developed to bring in new Section 8 tenants. So there's an abundance of tenants that qualify for that program. There just
Right.
aren't that many properties.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's people be on Section 8 list for like years,
Yeah. They're
literal
not
years,
building
trying to
they're
get a
not
place.
building new Section 8 tenants. Like they're just,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Like there's gonna be like low income housing, which, you know, they might be able to accept a few vouchers, but those only happen in like high density areas like Koreatown, East Hollywood, like where they give you like a density allowance to
Mm-hmm.
where you can have, you know, you can have more units. You can basically just build more units,
Right.
more low income units, and they give you like a tax incentive to do so.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, so it's not.
Why did I bring up Section 8? Not because I
I
thought
don't
the
know.
people in that area were on Section 8, but I think you mentioned like people taking advantage of
Yeah.
the system.
Well, she's had tenants who, like, when this whole thing started, and even after, when they got in, if they got in a situation because of the relationship with her, they reached out to her and said, "Hey, can we work something out? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to cheat you. I'm not trying to take advantage of the system, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But this is my situation. Can we work something out?" And she's
Yeah.
worked with them.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like she's been able to be like, you know, I have more respect for these people, and I'm
Yeah, of
more
course.
lenient with these people because they actually came to me. And then she's like, well, when I have tenants who have been there for, you know, 10 years plus, paying 80% under market, and they just stop paying me, they don't answer the phones. Like, you know, what am I
Yeah.
supposed to do?
Yeah. That's messed up. Yeah, I was just looking at something. They said since the pandemic, there was like 450,000 evictions filed. That's a lot.
There was 100,000 filed, like on the 31st, I believe, in Las Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah.
A
Nevada has
hundred
a huge
thousand.
amount of filings.
But you know,
I think they're up to
Biden
like
is
200,000.
Biden is work. Well, I don't. It has to go through Congress, but he's already attempting to extend it to September.
Well, it's already been extended to September in LA County.
Yeah, but this would be nationwide.
Yeah, on the federal level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we know that's coming
So I'm like, I'm chilling. Like I'm
because it
like,
expired. It expired like maybe 2 weeks ago, but I mean, we know that's coming.
yeah. I've been like just I don't know. It's a weird situation, man. Because I think the one thing I don't want to make it seem like, because I know we talk a lot in favor of like the business owner,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to make it seem like we're disregarding, you know, like the tenant or the consumer or
Mm-hmm.
the employee. It's not the case. It's just more so understanding the overall concept. Like I will always side with the person who's taking the risk because I understand what goes into taking the risk. You like, you know what I mean? So I think for me, at least, speaking for myself, for me, that's where a lot of times that's where my concerns lie with the person who takes the risk. Because
Right.
if I'm investing my capital that I didn't get from, it didn't fall out the sky.
Right.
It came from some form of labor or something.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm investing my capital, incurring all the risk, and you feel like, you know, you're just entitled to whatever I'm giving you because I've taken on that risk.
Mm-hmm.
That just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I think there's two sides. There's the risk that the owner's taking on, and then there's a responsibility too, and they work together. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, but in many cases, you don't ever hear the housing provider side of it.
Because nobody
I think
cares.
I think you talk about landlord, it just seems like this, this evil villain that's just collecting all the money in gold billion or something, um, or bullion. But it's just like you got all your coins, all your gold coins you collecting for the month.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just don't think you hear the perspective. Um, especially a lot in our community, you just don't hear it a lot. You know, so I think it's just we're just adding a different, just a little bit more perspective on it. But I think there should be respect on both ends,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't see that a lot because I mean you do have some real slumlords too, you know,
No,
that are, are
100%.
bad are bad housing providers. But and then
Absolutely.
on the other end of the coin, you have, people who are being provided housing that's really trying to play the system. So um, again, it's hard to have a general conversation, then also, include all these disclaimers without stopping to disclaim the whole time.
Yeah, but I feel like people like us are qualified to have this conversation because we don't identify with either party.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like in these situations, we're often, the third party. We're the person in between, basically handling the situation for both sides,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be a homeowner or an apartment owner or whatever. Like
Right.
if it's landlord tenant or landlord or sale to sale, like it's the same. So in many cases we end up interacting with both sides.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So if you sell a house and you double in the deal, you deal with the buyers as well.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you represent the buyers, there's another deal where you might represent the sellers, right?
Right.
If you sell an apartment building, it's the same thing. You got to do a walkthrough or an inspection. You're going to be walking through people's homes.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? And so, and I hate
Yeah.
that, by the way. Like I hate that, but you know, it's just what it is. And so I think
Yeah.
we
People
get.
feel uncomfortable
I
seeing
feel
people in their home.
uncomfortable. I don't know if it's just me, but
No, it's the same for buyers. I have buyers that I look at, show property and it's just like, it's just weird when they're here. All their stuff is here. Just feel like you just walking around. I'm like, yeah, you just got to get used to it. And you never really do. Never fully comfortable just walking around somebody's house.
I mean, even for me, like, because one thing I dealt with initially was like I don't know if it is if I can properly call it that, but like imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Like, am I supposed to be here?
Mm-hmm.
Because we in the environment, in the arena, you identify more so with the person who's in the unit
Mm-hmm.
based on where we come from, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you walk into someone's house, they see you as like, they're looking at you, and for me at least, they're looking at
Mm-hmm.
me, and I kind of feel like we're peers.
Right.
I know we're not, but I'm just looking at them like, you're sitting down playing Madden. Like I would like to do that, and you
I
know what I
play the
mean?
same game.
Yeah, but we can't even connect on that level because of who I have to be in this moment.
Right. I mean, why not though?
Because I'm the enemy now.
Why?
What do you mean why?
You're doing your
I
job.
don't know. Yeah, but
You're doing your
I'm
job.
the I'm the enemy now because I'm helping the apartment owner. I'm part of the problem in
Mm-hmm.
within our community, as it's seen. I'm part of the problem. So I can't even walk in and have, not that I've had instances that were like that. They've all been cool because you have to kind of let them know I'm not that kind of person. But they see you as part of the problem.
Mm.
Because if they're building sales and then they get a rental increase, which won't happen anyway because of rent control. But if back then, if that happened and they have to leave, they see you as part of the problem.
Right. Well, I never consider how people see me on that level. You know, uh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm there to do a job. So if I want to comment on you playing Madden or I don't know whatever thing you have in your house, oh yeah, that's a nice play. I read that too, and I feel like I want to comment on it, I'll just do it. You know, um, I never like make a line between what I'm doing and what they're doing. It's like, look, we got to do this anyway. So it's just it is what it is. I'm at work
And
and
like you lucky it's
you
me.
doing what you doing and I'm
But
doing what I'm doing.
but no, I mean that's true. It's
But
just
representation is so important, so important. I don't know if I mentioned it on this podcast, and I don't want to go too far off topic.
you got another one? You got another podcast you doing? What's going
No,
on?
I'm yeah, start my own.
What is that one?
Start my own. Better late than never.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, go ahead. That's cool.
Um, but I think I mentioned yeah, I was when I was at a commercial firm working for somebody else. One of the agents was writing like a description of um of the apartment building.
Mm-hmm.
In the marketing the
Memorandum.
yeah marketing memorandum, and he was like, it's basically bullet points when you're writing, your proposal about the positive things about this building, right? So it can be like, the roof was just redone 2 years ago, new HVAC, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And in one of those bullet points, he wanted to include that the community was 97% Caucasian.
Yeah,
And I was like,
first of all, that's wild.
this is going to be a bullet point of this is why you should buy this property.
Nah, man. He had a when did he take his real estate license test? Like 1950? Like what is
No, this
going
is this
on?
is Dylan. This was a young guy. He was probably like a few years older than me.
Yo,
And
he's
he kind of
wild.
like, there's a bullpen when you're working like at a bigger commercial firm.
Mm-hmm.
And like, so our cubicles are kind of like all next to each other. And he kind of like yelled like, what should I write this? And I look up and I'm like, no. I'm like, no, you can't say that. And then it was another Mexican guy. Uh, he was like, no, you can't say that. There was another Asian guy like, no, like, bro, what are you talking about?
Yeah, man. He trying
So
like
uh, like representation in these different spaces is very important. And I would hate for someone to think like because I'm doing what I'm doing that I'm the enemy, because like no,
they do though.
I'm the person that's there like no, we that probably shouldn't be done that way, or like no, they need a 24-hour notice before you show up at their property, or like no, they have this type of right. So um like you said, we kind of play both ends, um and just do our jobs. But yeah, that was interesting. So I just imagine like if I would in a room or other people of color, as they say now, um, that probably would have just been left unchecked,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So yeah, representation is important. So in general, we're not the enemy.
No, I mean, yeah, I know
And I
that.
mean, unless somebody say, hey,
They and
I don't like you.
they've said
You
that.
walk in like, I don't
Yeah.
like you.
I've
You're
had
like, well, I
people
don't like you either.
I've had I never had like I mean, you know me anyway. Like you're not gonna get me upset. Now I'm just gonna laugh at you. But I've definitely had instances where like people saw me and then because I'm with Drew.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they see me and then they see him and it's like, oh, okay. We met a guy and he was Mexican and a real cool dude. And he was a CPA, had his own practice, and I met him at his office. right? And his office, it was actually low key. Like this could be a movie. I could write a
Mm-hmm.
movie off of this, because his office was like in the middle of like a highly like a high density area of
Mm-hmm.
like nothing but like businesses, like like it's like if you went to a foreign country to go meet someone who's like an ambassador or something in this area, and he's like in the center of like this huge like marketplace, and his office is right there overlooking the whole thing, right, like
Like your
above
drug
like some,
kingpin.
yeah, like
He
overlooking
the
like
kingpin.
some random business, like
Right.
it's like, it's like Joe's beeper shop, and then there's like
Mm-hmm.
a staircase on the side. You go upstairs, knock on the door 5 times, and like they let you in, right?
Right. He's Joe.
Yeah, exactly. And and I met him there. I met him at his place, and he was cool. Me and him are cool to this day. Like he added me on Snapchat, which is weird, but
Mm.
um, and he lives not far from here.
Right.
He lives in Westchester.
Mm-hmm.
Has a nice house there. Has a bunch of cars. So we talk about cars and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But and we were showing him. I brought him some deals actually. This is right before I closed the first deal.
Mm-hmm.
I brought him that same deal,
Okay.
right? And so we were talking about that deal, and he was like, "Hey, listen, I got $1 million. This is too expensive for me." He's like, "I'm not a
Mm-hmm.
rich guy. I just have $1 million."
Right. Right.
And he's like, "This is too expensive. Like, what can we do about the price?" And I'm like,
Mm.
"Nothing." Right. So I'm like, nothing.
Right.
And so we wrap up and we getting ready to leave, and Drew kind of walks out before me. And as I'm getting up, because I had all the paperwork, so I'm putting all the paperwork together to get up and leave.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of like stops me and is like, he's like, come on, man, hook me up, man. Like, come on, man. Like trying to
Right.
make it seem like it's a racial thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, come on, man. It's like it's me and you. Like, I know you got your
Right.
partner and all that, but it's me and you. Like,
Right. Right.
and and so it's like, man, like relax. Like
Mm-hmm.
it ain't even like, but I brought that up to say those things do happen.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't necessarily bother me. I'm just able to pick up on it because
Right.
I've been on walkthroughs where you see people who are the same age as you, and they see you walk in with the landlord, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it is, honestly. Like you see people who look like you, they're the same age as you, and they look at you like, what are you doing here?
Right. Right.
Because from what I know, people who look like us aren't supposed to be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
I mean,
I
I've had a few run-ins like that, but it's not. I just had to let them know. Um, to paraphrase, I ain't no punk ass realtor.
right. Bad.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah. It's some, yeah, yeah. I can see some of those scenarios for sure. Some of those scenarios for sure. And I think the core of it is just being yourself. To be
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, hey, you know, I may be in this suit or this tie, or I don't wear most of that, anymore. But I'm at work. I'm at work, but the tie come off. Can't let the tie come off.
Basically, I mean that's I don't know, man. It's weird, man. And I think for me specifically, I kind of struggled with it because of what I thought, because you grow up kind of thinking things are one way, or they're a certain way, or
Mm-hmm.
they can only be a certain way for you. And like that opened my eyes to just dramatically, just going through certain experiences. So for me, it kind of really hit home,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like you're seeing me as the villain. Meanwhile, in my opinion, I feel like I'm a trailblazer in a sense
Mm-hmm.
for people like you. Because if I can be here, like I don't come from nowhere special.
Mm-hmm.
So if I could be here, you could be here. You don't have to be angry at me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you could do the same thing. I'm not nobody special. I didn't go to college. I don't have no family wealth. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like you.
Right.
Like, I was an electrician, 6 months ago at the
Yeah.
time. You know what I mean? So,
Mm-hmm.
um, for me, a lot of it really would, at the beginning, a lot of it really kind of messed with me
Mm-hmm.
because there was nobody on my side of the situation that I could kind of plug into.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Outside of like us, of course. But
Right. Right.
um, so it was difficult at first to really deal with, but initially, I
Yeah.
mean, eventually I got like over it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So what helped get over it though?
just keep doing it
Mm-hmm.
because it's not gonna change. I'm not gonna quit. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna quit and be like, all right, I'm gonna go home
Right. Right.
because my feelings are hurt.
I hear Jade in the back going in.
Yeah, that's parenthood. Let me send a email to management. But but yeah. So I mean, it's
His light is
just
bringing in these fly bugs from outside and closes the door.
just
Yeah.
things like that, and it's just we're kind of on along the lines of that. Um, we talked about on the show before that about the whole Crenshaw Mall thing.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that?
Yeah.
So
It's the
okay.
newest update.
Well, I heard that they actually awarded the bid to the New York developers,
Mm.
but then I saw another article saying the opposite, saying they're taking a minute to kind of weigh out the options or whatever.
Fake news.
Um, yeah. So I mean, I don't know what the hell is going on with that, but what I did notice that was pretty interesting was that was the comments when the article came out that it was awarded to the New York developers.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the comments were surprising because people were saying, well, they were saying pretty much the same thing we were saying.
Mm-hmm.
Like what was the plan for the community group?
Right.
Like who are these people? Nobody knows who
Mm-hmm.
these people are. Like, what are they gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
And I found that interesting because initially that wasn't the case. I mean, initially it was they shouldn't be allowed to do it. Keep this for us, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as the bid was awarded to them, it's like, well, what was y'all gonna do anyway?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I mean, it's so hard to gauge like from comments because anybody can comment.
Yeah, no, I just like to laugh. I like to
Yeah,
laugh
it's
at the
just
comments.
so weird. It could be anybody. It could be like Joe that works at Joe's Crap Shack, and he just commented on something like he may not know about, and you got to kind of get a perspective from these random comments on
Yeah.
how the community thinks.
Well, I mean, that's the good thing about. Well, one of the good things about Facebook is that because these like so it'll pop up on your feed or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's groups. So I'll plug into the different groups. Like I'm in the Inglewood group.
Right.
I'm in the View Park Windsor Hills group. All the areas around there. I'm in those
Mm-hmm.
groups,
Right.
and so it's like you're kind of able to gauge like the public opinion, at least amongst those people,
Mm-hmm.
about how they feel about it.
Right. Right.
And
At least the people who's fallen and commenting.
yeah,
Um, I mean, that just leaves you know hundreds of thousands of people who aren't on that comment feed.
absolutely unaccounted for. Yeah. Um, it was just interesting though. It was interesting that you know at the introduction of the idea of them buying it, it was totally different.
Yeah.
And then once it went to them, it was like, well, y'all didn't have a plan anyway.
Yeah. Time
And
to think about like I was angry, but now 6 months has passed, and I'm like, hey, I've had time to think about this, and what are we doing with this anyway? And also, it's not even we because I'm not even doing anything at all. It's weird. People are delusional
man,
because
yes.
they just went on to they commented in that Facebook group and just went on with their lives, whatever they was doing, and then came back later.
I mean, in many ways, they feel like they're part of the fight. I think people think, because we often, I feel like when we refer to the internet, we mean Instagram. In turn, especially when it comes to visuals, right? So when it's like people see things on the internet, like if someone says that statement, I feel like they're referencing Instagram. But and then when people are talking, I automatically assume it's talking about Facebook, like because that's where opinions come from, right?
Facebook
So
or Twitter.
yeah, mostly Facebook.
Yeah, like heated opinions, Facebook. Yeah, for sure.
Because you can kind of go to on Twitter, there's threads, but I feel like there's so many tweets, it's easy to kind of venture off and leave
Miss the
that person alone.
conversation.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Facebook is like I can go to this person's page
Yeah.
and see everything about them, make fun of their house,
Right.
that kind of stuff.
It's pettiness.
You know what I mean? Like, so I think,
We do have too much information on Facebook.
man, that's why I be chilling. All this information is public anyway, but I be chilling because it's too easy to find people on the internet.
And even the stuff is not public, we freely give up. So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, it was that was interesting, and then like immediately after that, I saw so there was two other things that happened this week that I saw people kind of up in arms about, and one of them I somewhat feel like they're justified, but the other I'm just trying to understand. But and one of them was Shaun King. He just bought a house, right? So again, people who work in philanthropy,
But
making
you said
large,
like no, they're like 800,000 though.
yeah, like
That's
840,000 or something. I don't know.
okay. I'm gonna let you finish your statement.
People who work in philanthropy shouldn't shouldn't be doing that. At least not in their name.
You said that's your opinion.
In my
They should not
opinion,
be
like
doing that. Or are you saying
not to
that's
where.
the talk or the word on the
No, no,
street?
no. The word on the street is that money is stolen.
Okay. Well,
That's the.
every time somebody spends some money, that's always a word. They stole that money. That's why they got all that. Yeah.
That's true too.
Um. Okay. So the word on the street is the money's stolen, and they shouldn't be having it. They shouldn't have the house or shouldn't buy the house.
Yes,
Okay.
because that money is for the community.
So the people who work in activism shouldn't sleep in houses.
No, that's not what they're saying.
They shouldn't own houses.
They're saying that money specifically is for the community. They want you to be the poorest person ever if you're going to do that.
I'm saying you got to be Jesus if you want to work for me.
Yes,
I
that's
know I'm
no,
not going to do it,
yo,
but you got to be Jesus.
that
I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go to work and do my thing,
that is a great
but
analogy.
you be Jesus.
That is a great comparison because that's
And get them
exactly what they
Yeezys
want.
on. Put them sandals on. Put them Jesus sandals on.
That is exactly what they want. I never thought about it like that, but that's what they want.
They're not that.
I know,
It's
but
that's annoying. That's annoying. And what is it? Where is this at? California or New York? And we're probably for sure not New York.
I think it's in Jersey.
Oh, okay.
I think it's in Jersey.
I mean, that's a beginner house in Jersey. I don't know the market like that, but I know you usually get more in Jersey than you do in New York.
Yeah,
That's
I
probably
think
first time buyer around.
from my understanding, Jersey, like the IE is to LA what Jersey is to New York.
Right. I get that. I would be in Jersey with a bigger house and more space. But
Yeah.
okay. Okay. 800,000 is not a lot of money. If it's stolen, I mean, yeah, that's sad. But they always say it's something stolen though. Every time someone works and I just don't understand you. Someone who works on the behalf of you for the community, they should have a house to sleep in. They should have a car. They should have food. All the things that because if you're going to champion them in everything else, why not? Why they can't be housed? And I just, you would think that's a simple concept. Um,
I don't
see,
know.
I'm not even gonna say that.
I don't know. I
It's
don't.
just
I just think if you're going to do that, you should do your absolute best to make sure it's not public.
at least put an LLC.
If even that can be, I mean, that can be discovered. But
Yeah.
if you're servicing, because the reality is you're servicing people who probably live, like the people who have the strongest connection to your cause probably live below the poverty line, right? I'm not saying all. I'm just saying the people who have the strongest connection to your cause probably live below the poverty line. And then you come out and say, I bought a regular house. Because in LA, that's regular. So
Yeah.
800,000 regular as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I bought a regular house to live in from the money I made from my business.
Mm-hmm.
And they look at you like you stole it. Now, I'm not saying he did. I'm not saying, I'm not throwing out those accusations. I don't know him. I don't follow him. I really don't know much about him other than, what he's attached to. I don't know nothing else because I don't follow him. But I think that's where the discrepancy is. When you're the face of something, and then people also see you benefit from it when it's supposed to be like, you know, an an effort of like philanthropy.
Right. Is it though? I mean, if you work in
I'm not arguing with you. I'm just
no,
kind of
I'm
I'm trying
not.
to understand
This
it.
is just we're just talking in general. If you work in anything, you should get money for it. You should be compensated. Period. Now, um, it might now the way you carry yourself might have to be different. I don't think when you're in a certain arena, they don't want to see you with gold chains on and diamond pinky rings. I don't know, you know, but they will still
You just made him a
accept
pimp.
that. They look, but they will still accept that look from their favorite rapper. So, um, I didn't make a point there.
I was wait, I was waiting, I was waiting for you to reel it in. Like it just never got. Just
But I
you
think
know,
the overall point is people should get paid for what they do. They should get compensated. I don't care. I don't care what house he lives in. I feel like if you do the work, that you should get paid for it.
yeah.
Like there's I mean, we can go through like the 60s. A lot of people who were activists, they didn't have anything, and they did all the work that a lot of people benefited from who weren't marching, who weren't
But okay,
raising money,
so
and they're poor. Like their family is poor to this
was
day.
was was that due to was that due to um circumstances of that specific time frame? Would you say?
Um,
Because there was a lot of things the things that they were fighting for and that they were bringing awareness to was because of inequalities in opportunity, not in outcomes, right? It was in
mhm,
opportunities. I don't have the opportunity to make or
right,
to take advantage of certain things
right.
because
I'm
of who I
completely
am.
locked out because of the
Exactly.
color of my skin.
Right.
Like, yeah, for sure. I
So
mean, I
whereas
just seen a recent I believe it was a denial letter for a college from like 1954, and it
I seen
said
that too,
we
low
can't
key.
accept you to this college because you're a member of the Negro race.
That's crazy.
Like that's different activism. It's like, okay, no. Um, but yeah, I think there's so many opportunities, so many marketing opportunities to make money as an activist now that probably weren't there like in the 60s.
Because it was illegal.
It would like it's no way that the newest, hottest, buzzing activist is gonna have a deal with a corporate brand like back then. Now you
Mm-hmm.
can. You can be an activist and have a deal with a corporate brand. Like look, I'll bring up Colin Kaepernick when he had like a video with I think Nike or something,
Mm-hmm.
that wouldn't have happened in the 60s. It was like, no one's getting paid for anything. So it's interesting you have like a capitalist perspective on activism, like simultaneously,
Because
to where
we're
you can
part of
make
the
money.
game. We're part of the game now. Back then we weren't part. They were fighting. I think now that we're kind of talking about it, and I'm not trying to solve that issue, but I think just talking through it, it kind of feels like many people today are holding on to what activism was back then.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of romanticizing
You know what I
of back in
mean?
the day for sure.
Because you see someone like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, where they led with the cause, and as you mentioned, those opportunities didn't exist for them because of how radical that cause was in the moment.
Yeah.
Um, and then today, someone they can call themselves an activist online by just creating content and market their way into sponsorships and partnerships.
Yeah. Or just commentary, like being like
That
major
too.
commentaries, like in the Twitter space. I've seen a lot of people come up, um, real organizers who organize people and funds. And I don't know what's the natural progression of that though. If you're somebody who's like, hey, I'm doing this for the community, and then at the end of the day, you can't go home and feed your kids, or you can't put clothes on your back, or you can't get decent housing, like, what do you do? It's like, especially if you're an activist that doesn't want to participate in capitalism, where that's how everyone gets paid. So
Yeah.
it's like you're like in a it's like a double-edged sword.
I'm trying not to laugh.
Why?
because
Stupid.
because I just wish people understood better. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I just wish people had a better understanding of things. And you know, I like to help to bring that to try to bring something to that conversation to explore it, you know, to get them to explore deeper into it, but it's an uphill battle. And so sometimes it's like, you know, sometimes all you can do is laugh because they're willing to be ignorant to certain things
Like, what do you mean?
when it
Kind of
comes
like
to
beating around the bush.
because I'm trying
Give me an
I'm you know
example.
I'm trying not to get canceled. When
Our three followers gonna walk away and like, yo,
hey
this
man, you
is
never
it.
know. You
This is
never know,
it. This
man.
is the
You never
last
know.
straw.
You know what I mean? They might just be like, you know what? You know, they was cool, but I don't like them dudes no more. I don't know.
Well,
Um,
you
like
can't hide
let us get like a gold YouTube badge first. Like then I might start
it. And
talking
then start
crazy.
talking real crazy.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Um, but
It's easy to talk crazy in the beginning. And then you let them go back and hear the things you said and then cancel you.
I guess that's right.
That's how it works.
Yeah, I guess so.
Like, I don't
Yeah,
believe he said that on
because
episode 2.
then the apology kind of makes more sense. Like it's more genuine, even though it's not genuine, but it feels more genuine. It's like, yo, that was so long ago. I'm a totally different person now.
I learned a lot from what you brought up, and I learned a lot over these last 3 days of you
Man,
canceling me. And
I've grown so much.
I've grown and I've learned, and you teach me a lot of things. Yeah, I'm gonna have everything pre-written, and I'm just input my names and who I offended.
Should we start writing them now?
I've been saving templates. If people start apologizing, I screenshot. I'm like, that was a good one. That was a good one. You groveled so perfectly, hit all the points.
um,
I think you just can't you can't make everyone happy. I mean, but there's a few people listeners you're like, I didn't agree with that, which is fine. I think that's
yeah,
perfect to be like, hey, I don't agree with that here. I do agree with this. I don't think we can 100% agree on everything. That's why we're different people, different backgrounds, different understandings of things, and it's just how it is. It used to be you can just be a different person from someone else, but now you can't. You have to be up
That's
on
true.
everything that's going on at every moment, every movement. Um, your vocabulary has to be on point. It changes every other week of what you can refer to a person or a thing or whatever. And I'm just like, I don't have time. I don't have time to be 100% activist and do my job and
Man.
be, and raise a family and maintain my life. Like, look, look, when I mess up, I'm gonna print out the apology and then go ahead and get it done. If I ain't saying, if I'm not calling somebody the right name or whatever. So
Yeah, so we back. Um had to take a quick break, but um to wrap up the conversation, basically, I think I kind of feel like the modern version of activism doesn't sit it doesn't sit well, or maybe it just doesn't feel the same because there's like a you know like an element of capitalism kind of tied into it.
right. Well, it
So
almost has to be because
yeah,
homes are 800,000. It's like,
well, people need
what are you gonna do?
you need money anyway,
Yeah,
and I think that's what it is. I think because the element of capitalism exists because of the advancement of certain things, even though it is not perfect, right? There's
hmm
still disparity, there's still inequalities, but I think just the advancement um, of the system to allow people to now participate who couldn't participate before and be activists at the same time. I think that's where maybe the disconnect comes
right,
because
right,
I can be an activist and also develop a personal brand that I can make money from.
right. Yep.
And
And
if
people, yeah,
people don't identify with you being
yeah,
the capitalist, they identify with you being the activist.
and they can't distinguish the two. I mean,
Exactly.
and you can't just look. You can't right click on somebody and look at all their income streams.
I wish you could.
It can be from somewhere else. Which no one ever considers.
Yeah. So I mean,
You
it's
stole it.
even like because I know you heard the news about Rihanna, right?
Yeah, she hit 1 billion.
Like 1 point, I want to say 1.7
Mm-hmm.
is what they, and this is I think okay. So I I looked it up to try and find how they did it. What was
Mm-hmm.
their what was their method?
Right.
I think it's 1.7, but they only included her two businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not including any investment she has, um, any cash, any other random assets. This is just
Mm-hmm.
between two businesses.
Like how much the businesses are worth.
Yeah. So
Okay.
they're saying that because initially, so I saw the article. I always go to the comments just to see how people feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, before we take a deep dive into that, how do you feel about it?
About that.
Her
Uh,
her being a billionaire, and according to them, her being a
mm-hmm.
billionaire and her being the richest female performer
Mm.
because of that.
Well, just to going back to our old conversation, I just think, or the previous conversation, I just think it's interesting that we champion the entertainers for making and access, $1 billion and hitting these certain, um, thresholds of success. But the activists can't buy $800,000 house. Like, what is that about? That it just lets us know where our priorities are and who we respect more. Um, where the activist has to be poor, but the entertainer, if you entertain me, you can have everything you want. But if you're saving my community, you have to be poor.
Now,
So I
before you
don't
continue, hold on. Before you continue, I want to
uh
make the distinction. This is not an endorsement for Shaun King.
right, not endorsements for any. No,
No, like I do not.
I don't.
No.
care.
No, I'm telling you, no. This is not an endorsement.
Yeah, I know it's not. Yeah, no.
Shaun King.
I don't endorse anybody. I don't care. I don't care. I'm only commenting on this because we have a podcast. But generally in life, I don't care. Mm-hmm. So it's just I have to comment on it. So, my comment is I don't care. No, it's fun.
Yeah. This your whole stance. I was listening to episodes and like I was telling you, your whole stance on every issue is like, so what? And I'm like, bro, like you do realize it's our job to talk about it. Yeah, you heard about this. Yes, yeah, so what?
I don't care about that.
Like, so what?
I know. I have to put the podcast hat on.
Yeah, you gotta do better, man.
I think it's a huge a huge accomplishment for the community and people of color and women's rights, and I think it's awesome. I think it should be more billionaires.
You're an asshole.
Man, I'm trying. No, but I think that's great. I think I seen a picture of her, Kanye, and Jay-Z. It was like a meme. It's like, yeah, they really did take over the world or something. Are we gonna run this world? Are we gonna rule this world tonight or something like that? That song.
Oh, from the song
together, yeah.
Okay.
And it was like, yeah, they really did it. I'm all like, right. Okay. See, look, now you like, all right.
But, I only say that because okay, so Jay-Z is cool. Jay-Z is my favorite rapper. Let me say that. Jay-Z is my favorite rapper. Up to American Gangster. So what came after American Gangster? Do you remember?
444.
I didn't like that album.
Was one. I like that album.
I didn't like it. It sounded dirty.
Dirty.
Yeah. Well, not okay. So for those of y'all who don't know, I went to the LA recording school. So by trade, I'm an audio engineer, I guess you could say. I don't know. So I listen to records differently than the average person would. A lot of those records they're not sonically pleasing. Especially with his voice.
Right.
You know what I mean? So Magna Carta was cool though. I like Magna Carta. That was cool. Yeah, that
was good. Yeah, I think that was after American Gangster.
That was after American Gangster. So
well, those for all our regular humans is just consumers of music. I thought it was good. That was good. I haven't listened to it in a while.
I didn't like it. Just sounded just very, very like
cool cuts.
I just didn't sound right.
I think it's something you can just play. I just recently listened to the Black Album again, and
dope, super dope,
crazy.
He could have retired.
What he did? He was supposed to. Yeah. And I understand why he wanted to. He was like, "No, this is it. This is it. Like, this is my purple rain."
Well, I brought that up to say, I love Jay-Z the artist because he does something that not very many people can do, if any, and that's take real life experiences and turn them into music that you can sing along to, dance to, and like digest. Right. He's not just saying the things that everyone else is talking about. He's saying it in a way that kind of brings you into his world in a sense.
Yeah.
My only issue with Jay-Z is that I feel like he's the kind of guy that could rob you and just be so cool that he get away with
about it. Yeah. I mean, he sold drugs. I mean, that's literally like selling poison and making a profit. So I can see if you do that for so long and live that lifestyle, I mean, corporately, on a corporate level, it has to be a lot easier. Check's a lot bigger.
And the people who you're robbing aren't going to raid your house.
Right. So it's like, look, I'd rather
And
do this.
that's yeah, that's smart. I like that. I like that analogy. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, he's used to doing that. I mean, for him, his perspective, he's probably like, at
This
least
is
I'm not doing
easy.
that.
Yeah, like
You know,
well, he's actually been vocal about like how he feels about his past.
that gotta hurt. They
Yeah,
gotta hurt. You
he's
know.
very now that he has kids and they're growing up in a space of like because I think in many ways because we talked about Dame before, but I feel like in many ways they were doing what they had to do because of circumstances, and they were so young it just made sense because of how young they
Yeah.
were.
Mm-hmm.
But I think now that they're older and they're seeing people who are choosing to live this way because of their influence,
Right.
and then they have kids, I think a lot of things are starting to hit home,
Yeah.
and
You
it's
start really
starting to
reflecting on everything. I mean, when
yeah.
you're 45, running to 50, you've lived a lot of life.
He is 50.
So when kids come, I mean, you automatically start thinking about what you were doing at that age. You know,
Yeah, I
and
just
it's
I
just
just feel
like
like I
you
feel
start to
like
see
he
them
would
like, man, like I was a baby.
I feel like he would rob you because even with he did a freestyle like on a title show, I believe it was like a title concert.
Mm-hmm.
He did a freestyle talking about gentrification and they gentrify your hoods before they do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I remember that.
and he talked about Black Twitter, like Black Twitter doesn't exist or something. Every time you do something, Jack Dorsey makes $1, whatever, because he's the
Mm-hmm.
CEO of Twitter.
Right.
But then he went and sold his company to Jack Dorsey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like what? But there's instances of things like that. That's
Mm-hmm.
his whole career. It's like it's not cool for y'all, but I'm gonna go
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. Like what they say, you never let the left hand know what the right hand's doing.
Yeah,
It's like I'm gonna feed you this while I do this. And
yeah. I
people
mean,
are
I don't
okay
know.
with that though. They're okay with that. It's like I already gave you the product you wanted. You want the clever rhymes on a beat that you can just drive to or ride to or dance to. I provided that. What anything you got to do with what I'm doing after I provided the product?
I mean,
Like you don't have to, like he's in a position where he doesn't have to live up literally to his rhymes.
no, of course not.
Most
But
people
it's
don't.
it's
I think if he can be 60% authentic, it can be right. It can just let everything ride. And it's not just him, anybody. Like I gave you the product. You enjoyed it, didn't you? Like, all right, let me go make this deal.
yeah, but it's one thing. Okay, so I don't want to turn this into like I'm dissing him. I'm not dissing Jay. I'm just
No, I
saying
mean I
like
like Jay-Z too. And it's not just him. I'm talking about anybody.
all of them. Yeah, it's. I think the reason why I said what I said is because he'll come to you, and not personally, but of course
Mm-hmm.
the way we know him, he'll come to you in the form of music and say one thing, and then turn around and actually go do the opposite, the thing he told you
Right.
not to do.
Yeah.
And if you listen to like somebody like Dame Dash talk about his interactions with Jay, it's consistent with what Dame says.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he's self-preserving. He's all about this.
Right. Right. Right.
You know.
Well, if you have somebody, if and this is the thing we don't talk about. If you have something to sell and you set your price, you have to have someone that's willing and able to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
And in many cases, a black entity or black owned entity is not there to purchase it. So
100%. Yeah.
let's bring
Yeah.
it down a level, right? Let's bring
Mm-hmm.
it down some levels. Back
That's
to real
actually
estate.
bringing it up though. That's bringing it up because now you're talking about acquisitions,
Right. So
and there
that's
aren't people who look like us on that level.
exactly that's the higher level, right? So let's go down to just regular property. When you're talking about don't gentrify your hood and bring it and you keep it, okay, we'll buy it. And you're looking around, it's they can't buy it, right? They either can't buy it or they can't buy it for the market price. So now it's on you to say, I'm going to discount the price just like the guy you talked about. I'm gonna discount the price so you can afford it, so you can buy it, and then we can
Mm-hmm.
keep it in the community. Where the whole time we should have been making sure we can over purchase everything, right? We don't need a discount. That's what a lot of other communities doing. They're paying, you know, at this time maybe 2 to 5% over market value because they have the money. They've
Mm-hmm.
been doing the work, so it's like we have the money. We're gonna come in. We're gonna buy it, strong arm it. We're gonna buy it. We're gonna pay you more than what it's worth, so we can own it. That's the position we got to come from. It can't be like, oh man, hey, it's me. You look like me. We look the same.
Yeah.
Like, that's not gonna work.
In the grand,
It's
yeah,
not
in
gonna
the
work.
grand scheme, no.
It's
There's
not
there's
gonna
no
work.
longevity in that.
Because for my clients, I'm trying to get them the highest price possible. I don't care what they look like.
Mm-hmm.
So if I show an offer for one price and it's 50,000 over ask, and then you have another price and it's not that, like, you let the client decide which one
Mm-hmm.
you want. All that stuff goes out the window. That's why it's not a thing. It's not a thing in real life. It's a thing on the internet. But in real life, it's not a thing.
Yeah.
It's completely not a thing. It's not a conversation. Once it comes down to money, and you're going to give me more money for this, yes, I accept. So I can't even fault Jay Z for that, but because everyone does it, everyone does it.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's like, yeah, this is how it should be, and then do something else.
I think the reason why it's an issue is because you're able to put a face to like the message.
Yeah, for sure.
Because he's an artist, so you're gonna hear his perspective, and he's still learning too. Like I don't, what I learned, if I learned anything over the past 5 years, right? If I've learned anything, I've learned that many of these people that are seen as brilliant and all these other things, um, it's true to a degree. Like they've developed the tools to be able to make certain decisions when they need to
Mm-hmm.
and position themselves for opportunities that are presented to them to
Right.
take advantage of them. But they're still kind of learning a lot of this because we've been out of that game for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even us, like even me and you, like we're kind of building this ship as we're sailing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have neither one of us has like a traditional education,
Mm-hmm.
right? We may be getting it
Right.
now, like what I mean, but we don't come from that. We don't come from academia.
Right.
We're not second generation, third generation, fourth. You know what I mean? Like so,
Mm-hmm.
many people are kind of figuring this thing out as we go.
Right.
I
Right.
don't I don't I don't fault him for that. I just understand the type of I can see based on his personality type and the type of actions, the things he does.
Mm-hmm.
If it comes to business, he might not be somebody I want to do business with
Mm.
because I would like him enough to let him rob me,
Mm.
and that's not
Right.
cool.
Right. Right. Right.
You know what I mean? So
Because they
that
already
that's kind of
projected
where
how they would do things, and this or this something else. It's like,
exactly.
hold on, I thought you were about this, and then the contract come in. It's like, yeah, we gonna go in you.
Yeah, no, and it's happened many times. And
Right.
when you're someone like him that has the ability to sway public opinion,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to walk away from certain things because of like the recourse.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Or
Someone
or or
someone like
what you're
him.
the positive benefits you might attain from saying, hey, I got a deal going with XYZ artist, this
Exactly.
person. Because I
That's
don't
what
want to
that's what I'm
keep saying
saying.
his name because it's not just about him.
No.
But it's more like, I have a deal with such and such come down the pipeline. Okay, the deal is out. So it's like, oh, you're gonna deal with, it's a clout thing too.
But that gives
So
him
someone might,
leverage.
you're
That
right,
gives him leverage to
to
rob you.
give bad deals. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, dang, like, but it's this person, you know, people gonna know I'm doing business on this level now. But you got a trash contract.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Yeah, it's just not. It's not important enough for me to take a trash deal for. I don't know. Maybe I'm dumb though. Maybe
No,
I'm not. Maybe I'm not using the leverage correctly of social proofing, and this and that.
you're not from that world.
Well, I
When
just
those
know it's going to be a certain amount of money I'm not going to make because of how I do business.
mm-hmm.
So I may not take, you know, 10 bad deals to have a very successful 11th or 12th deal. And I think that's what the game is. I'm gonna eat shit over and over and over, and then eventually, actually, I might come out clean.
Yeah, but those
But
are
your breath
learning
still smell like
experiences though.
ass.
Those what? Those are learning experiences though, right? So that's different. Like it's different because there's a trade-off there. I'll take the short end of the stick to to learn or whatever. That's a
Mm-hmm.
trade-off. I feel like that's a transaction. It's different when we're equally grounded in the situation and you're taking advantage of me solely because of public perception.
Right.
That's different
Yeah.
because you can because you can control how other people view me.
It's different in a way of if this was a contract, it'll be paragraph 1 ABC. It's still on the same page.
Yeah.
It's not on different pages. It's in the same paragraph, just different section. But um, you know,
Well, I brought that up to say this whole thing came from the whole Rihanna thing because I think it's dope, and I'm gonna tell you why I think it's dope. I don't know Rihanna. No, I don't know her personally. I don't know anybody around her. I don't know anywhere. I don't know anybody near her. Okay, but I think it's dope because, and I could be making all this up in my head, but I think it's dope because her being a billionaire, she didn't make her life and her brand and her identity about becoming that.
mm-hmm.
Right. So she's like, I'm just out here doing what I'm doing. Like I'm making my music. I'm building these companies. This is just what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So
And
she's not
so
promoting like, hey, we're gonna make a billion. We're gonna
it's
hit a
not
billion
it's
over and
not
over and
part
over.
of it's not part of her identity as a human.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like and there's nothing wrong with if that's what you want to do because that's one of my personal goals. It's just
Mm-hmm.
not it's for her. I feel like it's not wrapped into who she is as a person.
Right, right. It's not like
You know?
a character trait.
Yeah, like I don't know
Yeah.
her. I could be making all this shit up. Okay, I'm just telling you.
Mm-hmm.
Like just,
Right,
that's how
right.
I view it as an outsider. Because I feel like after you make a couple, the difference between like a couple hundred million and like some billions of dollars outside of like the market that exists today or an economy that exists today is luck.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you have to have a little bit of luck on your side. You could be completely competent and able and capable of making hundreds of millions of dollars. The
Mm-hmm.
math is there to support that. I think the reason why you graduate from that to massive amounts of billions of dollars is simply just luck and timing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
It's
whatever that
possible. Yeah.
thing is that you might not have that or that you have that someone else might have. Like look at Elon. Like Elon is a person that people just like. They give him money regardless. It has nothing
Right.
to do with what he's
Yeah.
actually doing. They just give him money,
Yeah.
you
That's
know?
a good position to be in. Well, maybe.
Absolutely. No, it is because people give you money. But
why would money be bad? Take the money.
but
I just I don't know. I wonder if that's gonna ever have some blowback eventually.
yeah. No, I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's why I feel like it's dope. Now looking deeper into it, when I looked at the way that they because that's what I tried to find. I tried to find how they went about giving her that value.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's warranted, but like not. Because it's based on it's based on certain guidelines that aren't necessarily consistent,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if from my understanding, her beauty line 50% of it is owned by LVMH. LVMH
They own everything, huh?
is Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, right? So I think the guy who's the CEO of LVMH is like the second richest person in the world. His name is Bernard Arnault or something. So they own 50%.
That's a sneaky billionaire.
Yes, that's who I want to be.
Yeah, right. Be a sneaky billionaire. Secret
so
agent.
they own 50%. And that company is valued at, I think they said that company was valued at like, I don't know, 2.8 billion or 3 points. I don't know. I can't remember. Then she has the Fenty, the Savage Fenty line, which is like clothes or like undergarments, whatever.
Makeup,
I don't
right?
know.
No, yeah. Okay. Yeah, the
So
luxury artist.
yeah,
Lingerie.
so there's
Right.
Fenty Beauty and then there's like Savage Fenty.
Okay.
So Fenty Beauty is like the makeup stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then Savage Fenty is, I guess, the underwear and whatever else isn't, because I don't know, whatever else that is.
Right.
So from what I was reading, they used basically a price to sales number comparative to other companies in the same industry.
Mm-hmm.
So they said other companies in this industry are trading at 7.5 times their revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So if we give her that same value, the company is worth 3.4 billion or 2.8 billion.
Mm-hmm.
My only pushback from that is 7.5 times revenue is extremely expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, her company is private, so that makes it even more like expensive. Even though she's owned by LVMH, it's a private company. That would technically be considered like an M&A deal. So if I'm gonna go and buy a company, it depends, because I didn't look at the financials. I don't know what the competitors trade for. I don't know how much money or what the profit margins are for like makeup companies. They could be highly profitable.
Right.
So 7.5 times might seem okay considering how much revenue can grow. You know what I mean? Like what I'm paying 7.5 times revenue for today might be 2.5 times next year.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because of how much they'll increase revenue. But even with that, even if you cut that in half, technically she would still be considered a billionaire based on those metrics.
Right.
Between the two companies.
So what are you saying? She a billionaire, but she not a billionaire?
No, I mean, yeah, no, it's I think it's legit. I think it's legit. The reason why I brought it up though is because reading the comments, of course, and just like the public opinion, social media and all that kind of stuff, is that there was a lot of there were a lot of conversations centered around, I don't care who it is, what they look like, what their skin color is. I'm not in support of a billionaire, period.
Oh, okay. This is back to the billionaire talk.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to before we, I'm drinking whiskey. I'm kind of drunk. That's what we were getting to.
We got drinks. We drank them.
So, side note, they didn't cut the check, but I really like this brand and it's black owned. It's called Bro Brothers. You see even the three afros on the cover. On the bottle. Mm-hmm. Go check them out. I really like this brand a lot. So if you see me drinking whiskey on the pod, this is what I'm drinking.
Yeah, I gotta try that.
But yeah, so that's what I was getting to. I was getting to people saying, like, that's cool, but I don't support billionaires anyway. They're immoral, they're unethical,
right,
that kind of stuff. And
I would just like to know why.
Well, the thing that I find, before we even take a deep dive, the thing that I find really interesting about that conversation is that if you go and get a job somewhere, say you go get a job at like Apple, and they pay you $200,000, nobody assumes that you have $200,000. Nobody says, "Oh yeah, Dorn's got $200,000."
Right. Like, you don't think about expenses and the money you actually spend.
But when you sign, when news like this comes out, people just say, "Oh, she's a billionaire. She got $1 billion."
Right.
Like what?
So it's more a $1 billion valuation based on
That's all it is. So she doesn't have $1 billion. They're just valuing her assets, some of them,
Mm.
to that number. She doesn't
Yeah.
have it. That's just, if say she had a death in the family and they didn't have the money and they needed to do a GoFundMe or something, she could liquidate assets to the tune of $1.4 billion
Mm.
if somebody was willing to pay her that much money.
Right, right, right.
That's all it means. She doesn't have $1 billion. I just find it funny though
Mm-hmm.
that when you when you get a job that's whatever the money is, nobody assumes you have that money. But as soon as it comes out that you've made $1 billion over your career, or in this specific
Well, no,
instance,
no one's thinking about that though. It's not about the $1 billion or how it's made. To you thinking that, like, I wonder how that valuation was. I wonder how that valuation came to be. They like, no, it's she is, and it's anybody who reaches a billion or some type of success that people want or have as their personal goal. They're a placeholder for what they can be. That's it. They're a
yeah.
placeholder for what they can be. This person looks like me. They have all the attributes I would like. They can sing. They can whatever it is. They can dance. They can play sports. I like this person. I want to be that person. They look like me. They're a placeholder for my success. I can do it too. That's it. Nobody cares. So that's the people who actually support the success. The other people who don't support the success are um, I don't know what they are. Are they haters? Are they? Because what's the
I don't think
point?
they're haters. I think
What's
they're
the
just
point?
misinformed.
Okay, what's the point though? What's the point to say? Okay, let's say it's not a billion for someone who makes they have a valuation of 100 million. Why don't you like that person? A person who has a valuation of 1 million. What's the point? Like, what's the ask? Like, what's the ask?
Because there's enough there's enough of a there's an extreme amount of information being shared and presented to them to make them feel like this money is just sitting there, and it's the reason why problems exist for you and in your neighborhoods.
Okay, well, see, it should be levels though. If this is truly how people feel, it should be on every level. So there should be a certain. You should feel a type of way from the person who makes 200,000 and the person that makes 100,000. You should feel a certain way about the person who makes 70,000 to the person who makes 30,000. Like there's discrepancy there. So I can't see too many people just waving the flag of, I don't see why this person makes 70 and this person makes 30. So it has
Well,
to be like
no,
a certain
yeah.
point, like a certain dollar amount. And of course, we know it's a billion, right? We know that's the point. But I just wonder,
Yeah,
like, what's the other points? Like, what's the real number where you like, I don't like these people that make this amount of money or this have this type of valuation or this net worth. What is it?
because they're not solving their problems. That's what I'm saying.
That's what I want to
They
get to. It's like it's not
they've
about the billion. It's not
they've been
about
led to believe that these people are the reason why your problems exist.
see that's different. That's different. Or it's like if I had that much money, I would do X, Y, and Z. Why
But
didn't I
they
do that?
wouldn't. They wouldn't know. Like that's
And if that's the argument, you have whoever if you're a person and you're making money, you have more money than someone. So that means in your everyday daily life, you should be given a certain amount of money to people who don't have as much money as you. And I don't know how many people can say that they do that on their daily lives, on their
mm-hmm.
level. Okay, you make 80,000 a year, sir. There's a person that's working at XYZ company making is working 40 hours, the same 40-hour work week, and they're making 35,000.
Mm-hmm.
Are you taking your time to go and talk to them and give money? Literally give money? Because this is what it's about. It's about giving money, helping them. So I would like to know, and I know this can never be like it can never be.
Mm-hmm.
Like how many people who complain about those certain things are using it in their daily lives on their level?
They don't, because it's so easy to complain.
Yeah.
They don't, but they've been led to believe that that's okay, right?
Yeah.
It's okay to be a complainer because the only reason why you don't have the solutions to your problems are because of these types of people. Now, that's an extreme exaggeration, right? If you want to talk about, just as we mentioned before, about property ownership and certain elements of wealth creation and and protection, preservation,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yes, those elements exist via like redlining, blockbusting. Those things happened. We can't
Yeah,
erase
for
that,
sure.
right? So it's a very, very small select group of people who would have benefited from that anyway, but they're allowing everyone to feel the pain points of someone who missed out on that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
not everything is excusable because, oh well, we wouldn't be here if you didn't do this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So they can use that
Well,
as,
see, that's a different argument.
but that's what it is though.
There's a real argument to be made about people who benefited from mostly government programs to amass a huge amount of wealth.
Mm-hmm.
One of them being FHA programs, first time buyer programs, federal housing administration programs, where black people couldn't do it at all. They couldn't get these government backed loans to buy property. GI bills back then, they
Mm-hmm.
couldn't get that. Like you mentioned, redlining, blockbusting. That's a real argument to be made. But the argument of this person makes this amount of money and I don't like them or they should do this, and that's something else.
No, it is.
And I
That's
don't
what that's
know
what I'm
if
saying. They're allowed to transfer that pain.
you're conflating the two though.
Yes.
And yes, in some ways, um, a person who may have amassed a certain amount of wealth did benefit from generations of it could have benefited from generations past that gave them leverage to move forward. That's a thing too. But you got
Mm-hmm.
to have like the whole conversation of
Mm-hmm.
and break it down of who these people are, where their wealth came from, how they amassed it. Did they benefit did they benefit from, 40 years, 60 years, 100 years of government programs, benefiting off government welfare to build their wealth, you know?
Yeah. No, that's
Because
true.
that's a thing. I mean, farmers have been, you know, subsidized for decades, white farmers specifically, by the government,
Yeah.
because blacks were farmers too. But they weren't getting, their access of crops being paid by the government by ridiculous fees or ridiculous rates. It's like, oh, you make so much corn, I'm gonna buy this from the government, no matter if your crop comes through or not. You're okay. So yeah, I mean, those things are conversations that can be talked about.
Yeah, but those are very specific issues that,
Yeah.
like you're saying, like yes, those deserve attention. Those deserve the conversation. What happens is those then become the excuse,
Hmm. Like moving
for
forward,
yeah.
it's
So
like,
when you see people who look like you who are now homeless, things like that become the excuse
hmm
for those occurrences, and then they look to whoever is basically put in front of them as the personification of the reason, if that makes sense. So they,
hmm
they look to people who own property, they look to people who own businesses as the personification of that issue.
right, 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 right. Yeah,
You know what I
I can
mean?
see that.
And so I think that's where, to me, that's where the biggest disconnect comes,
Hmm.
is they can't overlook those problems because they're constantly being presented with it in every
Yeah.
aspect of life, from social media to news to politics, whatever. They're always trying to put that in front of you in some format
Hmm.
to where you don't have to think for yourself and
Yeah.
kind of figure it out. They're just going to
Yeah.
put this
Yeah.
in front of you.
It has to be a point in your life where you say, yeah, all true, but when do I start putting my plan together? When do I start
Exactly.
implementing? what am I going to do? Am I going to just sit in my angry box the whole time and spit facts? Yeah, you spitting facts. Oh, yeah, history's on point. But what now? What are you going to do now? You have to either decide that you're going to be part of, um, the complaint train, or if you're going to actually take advantage of what you can do. Because me personally, I'm tired of the poor shit. I'm completely tired of it. It's like, what are we really going to do? You know, we have enough to pull together and do something like right now. So I'm off that.
Well,
I'm
see,
completely
okay.
off that.
So I'm glad you said
And
that. I'm glad
and
you said that.
let me finish this.
Okay, go ahead.
I think it's important that um, we can't all be poor together. Like, we need capital. Someone needs to make the capital to make investments in all these social issues that we want to do, because no one's going to give it to you. And the little money that the government's going to throw at you is not going to be enough. So, um, to use a Jay-Z lines, like, if I get rich and give back, to me that's a win-win. To bring it all the way back to Jay-Z, because we can't all be poor and complaining. We can't. It's not going to, like, we're not going to move the needle that way.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I agree 100%, man. 100%. And to sidebar, like just on a sidebar, because it reminded me of something. I was talking to P Minty.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out P Minty. And he was talking about, how he was basically saying, like, I spent a certain amount of money, on certain things. And he was like, I feel like I need to replace it. And he's like, is that a black thing? Like, and
Right.
I was like, I don't know, because I do the same thing. Like, I spend like $10 here. Like, yo, I need 12 back. Like, I gotta put this 10 back.
Right. Yeah, he showed
But
me the new purchase.
yeah, okay. So yeah, shout out P Minty, man. He
Yeah.
just copped his first Rolex.
Yeah.
Sea Dweller, Rolex Sea Dweller. Nice
Yeah, it
watch,
looked
man.
good. It looked good on him too.
Yeah,
I was like, yeah, it's nice.
yeah,
Um,
man. I'm happy for him. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
real nice piece.
it's I know people might think of it as like we talk about that kind of shit, but I know people might think of it as like just a discretionary purchase. And I mean, in many ways it is, but
Mm-hmm.
um to get to that point where you can do something like that for yourself, and then more importantly, if you can do something like that for yourself and your household remains intact,
Mm-hmm.
that's amazing.
Right. You don't blow up everything. blew everything up.
That's amazing. So
Yeah.
like,
So.
as he says, they're like trophies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I didn't that was something I didn't really get, because you always heard like rappers talk about that. It's like, oh well, I make a certain amount of money, I go buy a bunch of diamonds or whatever, and that's
Mm-hmm.
my version of
Right.
trophies.
It can be like a timeline in your story. It'll
Yeah.
be like, I remember when my goal was this, I hit that goal, and then I purchased that, and that's what it represents. So I completely get that.
Mm-hmm.
To be like, look, I've been trapping for a very long time. I've been diligent. I've been I've been I've been safe, and it's like, it's time. So I get that.
Yeah, man. So shout out P Minty
Yeah, shout
on
him out.
picking up his new trophy. Um, I've slowly kind of turned into you in a little bit, because I have my favorite pieces, of course, but I
Mm-hmm.
noticed that all the pieces that I really want are all Daytonas, and
Mm.
I was like, damn, I'm low key Dorrance.
Well, you start looking like, well, what I really want is this.
Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
like three of them. Three or four of them, and they're not cheap. It's
Mm-mm.
not cheap at all. Like, it's
The one I tried on was 60,
roughly, yeah, with
and I'm
tax.
like, yo,
It's the same. Like, I want the same one. I wanted the same one before you even, not the
that's a
same one,
that's
but
a that's a vehicle on your wrist.
a different version of the same one. I wanted that one anyway. And then I always
All they
wanted
do
a
is tell
platinum.
time.
I want I wanted a platinum Daytona as well, a platinum baguette Daytona with the baguette indicators, markers. And then I seen a rose, actually two more. I seen a rose gold Daytona, all rose gold, right? So basically like a brick. So it's rose gold bracelet, rose gold watch, rose gold case with baguette markers. And then I seen, which they recently came out with, was the rose gold, same thing, rose gold brick, rose gold bracelet, rose gold case, but it has a meteorite dial.
So what's the range and cost?
They're all roughly the same, but the meteorite dial is going to be way more expensive. Oh, and the platinum. The platinum will run you about 150,000.
Okay. All right. I mean,
right now, like
you kind of have to have like perspective on what things cost, and you realize that you realize pretty quickly that you're poor, and and not only that, that's part of it. It's humbling, but then you realize that your goals, the goals you have currently, are attainable. I'll give you an example of I was in Long Beach. I think I was doing some comps at the time, and I drive by these homes, and they're on the beach, and they're like 4.5 million. I'm doing the math, doing like a rough math down payment. I'm like, how much would this be a month in mortgage? So I'm doing roughly, rough numbers. I'm plugging in percentages and down payments. I'm like, this mortgage is like 22,000 a month.
And you'll do like 6,000 per million.
So I'm like, 22,000 a month. And then you look at the down payment, and it's like, I mean, a 10% down payment, you're talking about 450,000. So to qualify for something like that, I roughly do like 3 times the mortgage amount. You're talking about like $66,000 a month to qualify for it. And I forget how much a year that was. It was two something.
I mean, if it's 60,000 a month, you're talking like that's $500,000 a year.
Let me see, 66,000.
Or not? I'm sorry, I'm tripping.
792,000 a year for that.
Blame the whiskey.
So my point is that if you can drive by something or a neighborhood and you see that and you can do the math on it, you're talking about somebody who makes about 800,000 a year. They can put down 450,000 to his property and still have to pay $22,000 a month. So if you listen, think about your goals right now. Whatever your goals are, I'm almost sure they might not look like that. I know mine don't, right? So not to say you don't have bigger goals than me, but like I'm looking at that like, yo,
mine's are outrageous.
I'm sure. I'm sure mine is probably like that. Yeah, it's not that.
Mine's are it's ridiculous.
But so whatever your goal is, like it's attainable. This is one person walking this earth that's making that type of money to live in that one house. And you can't tell me that whatever you want to buy, you can't do it. Like it's not attainable. Right? Yeah. We're gonna be on the complain train and talk about how we can't get it. Like, no, I'm done with the poor shit. There's enough money. If this one guy or girl or family can live here, you can attain your goals. You can get what you want to get. You can buy the house you're looking at. But if you're gonna be, complaining the whole time, and it's not so much about the complaining. We're gonna have times where we're gonna complain and moan, but the time you're doing that, you don't have time to actually plan and activate with action what you need to do to make this happen. So that's what it's really about. If you're gonna complain, if you come home, if you're gonna be at work, complain all day, come home, complain all day, complain to your spouse, complain to all your friends, and you never have time to actually sit down and make a plan to get out of poverty or to get out of your situation, like it's never going to happen. You need the time to reflect, to plan, to plot and plan, to make sure what you need to do in life is actually going to come to fruition. That's what I mean when I say I'm tired of poor shit. That's the complain, not putting a plan together and not enacting it. That's poor shit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about like people who are actually in poverty, and it's very hard to get out of something like that. I'm not dissing that, or that struggle. But it's just all the things I talked about.
No, I would agree. I would agree 100%, man. I think, especially considering like how that kind of dictates how within our community, that kind of dictates how successful people live. Like that,
Right.
that kind of dictates the rules, how we move as successful
Yeah.
people. Now, slowly, I think that's changing. But ultimately, amongst society, that kind of dictates how we move within our community. Like,
Yeah.
so I agree. I agree
And that's why I just
100%,
like
man.
we need something else to tap into. you know, we need to tap into that energy to be like, yeah, all that's true. The history is true. But what do we do now?
Yeah, I think that's where we provide the most value because I feel like we bring balance to like the arena, right? So because there's people who are on both ends of the spectrum. There's people who are at that point where they're completely in that they're trying to stay in that lane of poor shit
Mm-hmm.
and poverty, and
Mm-hmm.
then there's others who are like hyper capitalist and they disregard a lot of the reasons why many people are in
Right.
those
Right.
situations.
Right. Yeah. They completely ignore them and have
Yeah.
been.
And so I feel like that's where we kind of bring the most value because we can identify with both ends of the spectrum, but show you how you can be who you are. You don't have to compromise who you are or your integrity, your moral makeup, and you don't have to jump at every opportunity. Like you can develop a plan for yourself and pull the next generation out of the trenches, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the biggest thing. I think the biggest thing is not putting yourself first because everybody wants to drive the Phantom first.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to buy the Phantom for the next generation to drive. They want to drive,
Right. Right.
right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm only using that because that's something that we can all identify with.
Mm-hmm.
But that to me, that's the biggest key. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I started like even consulting. Like I know
Mm-hmm.
many of our peers can't. They're not in a position to go buy a $5-10 million apartment building.
Right.
Doesn't mean that they don't want the information,
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
You know what I'm saying? So and there's more people. There's more of them who want the information than there are qualified buyers at that level,
Yeah.
right? So if I give you the information for a couple $100 an hour, and that couple $100 can give you a plan that 10 years from now you might have $5 million in equity
Right.
to go do something. Not like now you in the game. Now it took 10 years, but that's what it's going to take anyway because we're not coming from wealth.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? So that to me, that was one of the biggest reasons that I really considered that, and I feel like it was more valuable to do that than actually being a salesperson,
Right. Right.
like in terms of real estate. And that's something
Mm-hmm.
I still struggle with that every day because every other day I quit.
Right.
But it's just the
right.
truth. Like I quit every other day.
Mm-hmm.
But I just feel like
You
there's
talking about the consulting?
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because I can do that. I can have more of an impact doing that. And I'm not even somebody who's high on the spectrum in terms of I'm not a major player
Mm-hmm.
in the commercial world or in the real estate world in general. We're not made. I wouldn't
You don't
consider
have
us
to be
major
though.
players. You know what I'm
You don't
saying?
have to be.
But there's such a disparity amongst the people we tie into and just get into the first or second steps.
Right. Right. Yeah, for sure.
And I feel like if I only focus on me to get myself, better, and then we look 20, 30 years down the road, and all right, I did this for myself, but who did I help along the way? And I'm not saying that's anybody's obligation because you should be focusing on yourself and your family. That's all that matters. For me, I have a hard time doing things for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like solely for the benefit of myself, I have a very hard time doing that.
Right. Yeah, it's tough.
So, you know what I mean? So I look at it like if I know enough to get to the point, as you're saying, to get to the point where I can live the way I want to live.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I don't need an excess of capital to get to that point. I can build to that because I know how shit works.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can at least position myself to get to that point by helping people, I'm cool with that.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Because the impact is there. I don't care about the man. After you make so much money, man, like getting from, like I said, from 100 billion or to a billion, it's a lot. It's a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get to, once you get up in the millions, it's not.
Depending on who you are, like
There's not really many limitations.
you're you're
Like,
likely you're likely the same person you were before, whatever
exactly.
amount you made. You're gonna like the same things. You're gonna like the same activities. You don't just all of a sudden turn into a whole different person. It's
Well,
probably
some
gonna be
people
the
do,
same.
but I think it depends on how. I think it
But
depends on how
that's
you got your
suckers
money.
though. That's suckers though. You know,
Okay, I was trying to be nice in PC, but yes,
if you
those
change after you make money and you start to become this completely different person, then that's you. That's a personal character flaw.
yeah.
You know, but in general, if you like the things you like the things you like. You know, it's even for me. You know, I may own a Rolex, but I'm not gonna own 20 because that's
Man,
not
you
my
never know.
thing.
You never know,
No,
man.
that's
Don't say
your thing.
never.
You may not. You may not know. I know. I wear that one Rolex for 30 years.
Man, look. I'm gonna tell you like the cool kids say today. That's cat.
Man, hey, you are who you are before you get here, and
No, I
a
agree.
lot of things don't change.
I
Now,
agree. That's cap though.
okay, we can use. Okay, let's give 10% leverage to what I'm saying. Okay, I might have two. Okay,
Yeah.
but you know, like they say, you know, you never know what you're gonna do until you actually have the money. But then it's all about, I don't know. I don't see me.
Well, okay. So.
Well, I kind of have to. Okay, let me roll that back
Okay.
because when you talk about the money you make, it'll be the same. So I probably have like I have a watch case, so I have maybe 6 watches
Mm-hmm.
that I've really most of my watches are gifts that I've gotten over my lifetime.
Yeah.
Um, but there's a few of them. So if I'm looking at the same amount of like whatever that watch costs in today's terms of whatever I make now or my peers around me, right? Because they were gifts. If my lifestyle is the same, I have the same peers or the same, and I'm making the same money, it'll be equivalent to those same watches. So instead of them being, uh, I don't know, I don't know what, I don't know who makes them watches, but instead of being one brand, it'll just be another brand.
Mm-hmm.
So if I just superimpose my life to a life of someone who's making millions of dollars, it'll probably be the same. It might be 6 watches still, or it
No,
might
that's
be
fine.
two
It's
cars
yeah.
still, but it'll be different types of cars. It'll still
Yeah.
be, so many houses, but it'll be different types of houses. And this is things we don't really get when you're talking about someone who makes 10 million as opposed to someone who makes 100,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they have the same things, but they're different things. You know,
Yeah. Your options are different. Yeah.
yeah, they're different.
Absolutely.
They're just,
Yeah.
but in terms of money, it's the same. If you're talking about percentages, how much you spent on your car, let's say you're making $100,000 and you spend $20,000 on your car, you making $100 million and you spend 20 million on your car or whatever, and whatever. That's a lot of cars. That's just a jet. Now you have a plane, but
You got a plane
it'll
and a
be
boat.
right. You got a plane, a boat, and a yacht. But I'm just trying to, like, the equivalency of those different amounts of income would be pretty much the same. Actually, when you make more money, the percentage would be less.
Yeah, it's all scalability.
You
Yeah.
know, it's more like 1% that you're going to spend on those frivolous things. It's only when you have less money that percentage is a lot higher. But yeah. So with that being said, I don't know. I might have 6. So I can't.
You don't need much. You don't need much. It becomes a thing of what happens is it becomes a thing of just like a house, right? So say you went and bought a rental house, and then sometime down the road you find another property that you would like to buy, right? Now instead of you coming out of your pocket to fund the down payment or whatever, it's I've gotten my use out of this other property here. I can leverage this property to get into the next one.
Right.
Yep. The same with the watch. You spend 50 grand on a. I mean, I don't know what the I don't know the exact number that they retail at, but I'm it's somewhere between $40,000-$50,000 or something like that. So you might be paying like a $6,000 premium, $7,000 or $8,000 premium. You'll get to a point where either you find another one to replace that one, or you might find 2 or 3 to replace that one. I can go to the dealer. They give me 40 grand for this watch, and I could bust it down between 3 watches.
Right.
So now it just becomes something else. Or like someone I once heard say, once a watch becomes too expensive to wear, it leaves my collection.
You gotta be sold.
Because it just makes sense. But that's the same as real estate, right? Like where
once my house is too expensive to live in,
I have to sell it. Yeah. Because that's
everyone
just
should be selling right now.
That just it makes the most sense. So that's why I say it's cat, because you'll be, and I never use that word. I hate that word.
I just started using that word. I started using the word. I'm using it. I decided.
No, well, I hate you too. Then
I'm trying to use it. I had a debate about like when you should add a new slang word to your vocabulary. Is it like, or is it like whatever era you come from, do you just use those? Like when do it stop? Or are you okay to just add a few things? And what will those things be?
I'm okay.
No one's still not saying that's off the chain.
Well, some people do.
See, I'm saying they stopped. They was like, these slang words are sufficient for the rest of my life. I feel like
these. As long as you don't sound, I think it depends on how it sounds. Like if I sound, knowing me, if I sound like I shouldn't be saying that,
right,
then I won't say it.
If it don't sound like your cadence is like,
because and this your aesthetic.
That's cap.
Yeah, like everything. Because think about it, like if you like I'm in everything I have on is like it's either my brand or no brand, or like a smaller brand. So if I'm hearing like a graphic tee and certain, I just feel like a lot of aesthetics. I'm not gonna get into the specifics, but I feel like a lot of like your aesthetic kind of plays into that. Like if I'm and I like to dress down, like
so even based on what you're wearing, you get to use certain slang words.
Yeah, because that's how you, like, if I come across and say something's cat, and then you could shoot on me, pause just in case, you could shoot on me just because of how I look. You know what I mean? Because of what I'm wearing, not knowing that these shoes are just all black, but they cost $200 or $300, but they're just all black. Right. So, but
gotta have the blacks.
Absolutely, and I got them on sale. But just because I got them and they're not like what you would assume for me to say, so it's like, yo, who's this corny dude?
Right.
Talking
you don't
like
look
that.
Like us.
Yeah.
You ain't one of us. Like come to see you, Otis. I'm the one writing the records.
Yeah. So I try to stay in my lane, man. I actually got introduced to a new book called The Old Money Book. I'm gonna read it. It's by Byron Tully. It's called The Old Money Book. How to I think the secondary title is like how to spend less, but like look what I don't know. I just know it's called The Old Money Book.
Right.
And I think it's free for Kindle. I like free. Yeah.
I've been listening to more audiobooks lately on that free app from the library. I think it's called Hoopla.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna see
So
if
I've
it's
been
on
doing
there.
that.
I'm gonna see if it's on there.
Yeah.
YouTube has a lot of free books as well.
Mm. Yep.
Um,
I've listened to a few.
yeah,
I
but
listened
I'm
to
gonna see. I'm gonna see if it's on Hoopla because I downloaded that when you told me.
mm-hmm.
So I'll see if it's on there. Because
Yeah.
I like to
Get
have
your
the
library
actual.
card.
I like the actual copy in case
Mm-hmm.
I like potentially run into the person. I can have them sign it. Like
Yeah,
I had.
you really be thinking.
Yeah.
You have a you have a trunk full of books just in case you run into the author.
Well, I had Manny Koshbin sign a book.
Right.
One of his first book, and his books are cool. They're
Mm-hmm.
not like, you know, they're not like really they're not I won't say they're not worthy. They're just not. It's because of who he is and his brand is so strong. Like people put more value on them than probably they should.
Yeah.
But I had him sign a book. I reached out to him and he signed it. So that I thought that was solid. And I actually gave that book away. I'm kind of mad about that. But yeah, I try to have it just in case because you never know, man. You never know, like you might bump
I
into
think for me,
somebody.
just the ease of holding like a Kindle or keeping a Kindle or reading from Kindle is so much easier. Even the Kindle app on your phone, like you can just be doing
That's what I
something,
use.
read a few pages, and then
Hmm.
go back to what you're doing, and that's helped a lot.
That's what I use. I use the Kindle app and I pull it up on the iPad or like on the computer and just
Mm-hmm.
kind of just do what I
And,
do
here's another hack. You know, once you go to the bathroom for the long one, we'll be back to this topic.
for the long one. According to you, they all
Don't
the long one.
don't. I'm not constipated. If you listen to episode 17,
Is that
we
what?
talked about
No, I
we,
think that was
we talked about sitting
16.
down and giving your body time to um, expel. Anyways, the hack is don't take your phone in the bathroom. Leave a book there. So once you're in the bathroom, you read a few pages, and it's basically your bathroom book. And instead of scrolling on your phone and looking, catching up on your memes and all your socials, keep your book there. Read a few pages, you know, bounce up, bounce out. That's a good way
That
to
is
get a book done.
that is so much more mature than what I've always wanted in my bathroom. Because I always wanted a PlayStation in my bathroom.
He's like, oh, you talk about I'm for the long one. That's the long one. You gonna get a game in?
Hey man, you never
We'll
know.
play
You
four
playing look,
quarters in here.
you be playing 2K, man, them games be intense.
You have two games going. He got the game in his bowl and the game on his rim.
You know what's funny? I was talking to my mom the other day, and I don't even remember how we got on the topic. I think because it was a friend of hers. She has a friend of her or someone she works with who's a realtor,
Mm-hmm.
and she's a part of this group who's trying to raise money, like private money for flips and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like what NR was doing like 10 years ago. Like you go in there, they show you
Right.
the information. It's like, oh, well, you can reach out to your friends and family about leveraging their 401k, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was asking me about it because she didn't really know what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at the time I was going through the financials for a specific real estate crowdfund.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm not gonna say what it is or who it is, just a specific real estate crowdfund. So she was asking me about it. Like, what how did it come about? Who's running it? What are they
Mm-hmm.
doing? And I was going through the financials, and it's really embarrassing.
The one that you okay, this is a different crowdfund. This is not the one that was introduced to your mom. This is something
No.
different. Okay.
So the thing that my mom was introduced to wasn't a crowdfund. It was
Mm-hmm.
it was someone who's a realtor who joined like just like
Okay.
NRE, right?
Let's just make
Not
sure who
NRE,
we
but
talking about.
NR. Remember like 10 years
Right.
ago we went to
Right.
Arizona? Right.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's similar to that. Like
Mm-hmm.
He joined a group who teaches people how to basically solicit capital from people via their like 401k or whatever.
Right.
So at the time we were having that conversation, I just happened to be looking through the annual report of the
switching gears,
crowdfund.
we're talking about a different crowdfund. Okay.
Correct. So I happened to be looking at the financials for a crowdfund, and they were really, really embarrassing. And the reason why I say embarrassing is because this person is pretty popular
on the socials.
On socials. Because well, depends on who you follow, but they're pretty popular amongst, because I know everybody's not looking into it that way. They're just, they see the marketing, they see the content, and they agree with it, right? Because if I come out and say, yeah, man, you should stop renting and buy a house, and I make content surrounding that, that's true.
Yeah. It's like, I agree with the message.
Exactly.
But the implementation is trash.
Exactly. So I'm going through the financials, man, and and they raised roughly $12 million, like $11.9 million at $50 a share.
Okay.
Right. So and I'm trying to speed this up. So basically,
yeah, we ran it over.
Yeah, they've been in operation for 3 years, since 2018. This is their third filing, right? So between last year and this year, they've reported a net loss both years. Right? Now the purpose of this fund is to buy real estate and pay the investors back. But it's a crowd fund. So we'll get into that later. It's a crowd fund. It's not a real estate investment trust. It's a crowd fund. So that's the purpose. So they've lost $3 million over the past 2 years.
They spent it, that's why.
2019, they lost around $1 million.
They spent it.
2020, they lost $1.8 million. There's a net loss of $1.8 million.
1.8.
Now, do you know what their biggest expense was? Can you, if you had to guess, what would you guess their biggest expense was? They only have 2 employees, by the way. They have 2 employees.
I would say housing cost.
No.
Cars.
No. Well, no.
Clothes.
Those 2 kind of go in line with what it is, but specifically, no.
Utilities.
No.
Utilities and maintenance.
They didn't buy any real estate, so no.
What could you spend $1 million, 1.8 on?
Now remember, we talking about the internet. So what happens?
Marketing.
On the internet? There you go.
Okay.
Marketing and staffing.
Ding, ding, ding.
Marketing and staffing. The company has 2 employees, and they spent $1.8 million on marketing and staffing. Marketing companies owned by the CEO of the fund.
Paid yourself to market. And marketing dollars on marketing.
Now, if you
marketing.
If you had to guess, right? Because they did make rental income, right? If you had to guess, how much would you say that they made in rental income? Now, think about it. You have $12 million in capital.
$800.
Damn, that's even less than I would assume. But no, that's not it. Like, yo, you ain't kind of hard.
Like, I'm gonna rent out the little office.
Yeah.
A little cash flow.
Like, you're not far, but you're not close.
Probably a few $1,000s.
$2,400.
Yeah. A few $1,000. And rental income. A month?
No, for the year.
I was almost right.
I know. I said you're not far, but you're not close.
That's crazy.
So
so this must be their rental lease. I'm going to pay myself rent of, what is that? $200 a month? 100?
Nah,
I can't math right now.
It's $200 a month. That's if you want to break it down that way. It's just they've collected $2,400 in rent for the year. They make so according to the SEC documents, they make money on transactional funding from double closings. They make money on interest from private loans and from the sale of properties. So in the last 3 years, they've made around $240,000 in revenue, right? And they have
That's
$3
gross.
million. Yes, they have $3 million in losses, in expenses.
So they
in
spent
3
it.
years.
That's what you said. They spent it. I said that earlier.
Yeah,
That money was spent.
I was trying to be nice.
Yeah, they spent the money.
So
So which fund is this?
I'm not gonna say the name.
I
Not gonna say the name because people
have an
automatically
idea.
assume
I have the notes.
because you know me. But they
He's obsessive. I don't believe you
well
get away with this.
I look at the numbers because it's public.
Right.
Like, why would you not? It's public. I know everybody doesn't have the ability to read financial statements, but it's public.
You're
Even if you
ruining the
don't
narrative.
know, even if you don't know what every expense is, there's a line that says total. So it's like total revenue, total expenses, total
No, people
net
can.
profit.
It's not hard. It's just that you just don't want to.
Well, to
You want to believe in a message so much that I'm not reading that.
to provide context. This is an entity that raised capital under the guise of rebuilding Black Wall Street and fighting gentrification. That was their marketing plan. So they raised $12 million to the tune of, at the tune of $50 a share, but minimum buy-in was $500. So you buy in 10 shares at a time. But it's a crowd fund. It's not a publicly traded company. It's not a real estate investment trust. It's not a real estate operating company. Nothing. It is a crowd fund, which means your money is basically a donation, right? So
It says that in the paperwork.
yes.
We don't have to make a return, and your money's ours.
All of that. And they have 2 employees, neither of which have experience. Right?
Married to one of them.
Yes. But extremely popular online. Extremely popular. And I was going through the financials, and I was just thinking, like, this is embarrassing because you raised $12 million and you can only bring in $2,400 in rental income.
Yeah. Well, that just lets you know that it wasn't about that.
Of course not, because their biggest expense is marketing.
It wasn't about buying real estate and fighting gentrification, rebuilding Wall Street. Wall Street was people with actual professions and businesses. And it seems like the person who wants to benefit off people's ignorance are the people who want to steal from them. I'm gonna use a whole bunch of flashy words. I'm gonna wear some clothes. I'm gonna market the hell out of this on social network, and you're gonna give me your money because you don't know any better. I'm gonna play off your hopes and dreams, and your pain and anger, and all these different things to get what I want, to succeed for me. And it's just a story that's just a story old as time. Beauty and the Beast. You know, same thing. Same thing. Same thing, different person. I just wish people would well, it's just like they say, a sucker burn every day. You know, even if we got people on point to recognize these certain things, there's always a new generation of suckers is born and they don't know.
Well, because they believe in the story more than they're willing to believe the reality. So they believe in the idea. So the reality doesn't matter because they buy into the idea.
This is going back to people when you're mad and angry and upset about things that's happening in our current community, in the news, on social network. The easiest thing for you to do is to give your money away and feel better that you tried, rather than actually do the hard work of being a full-time activist where you're gonna get shitted on for buying a house later down the line.
Yeah.
Or it's like the easiest thing for you to do to say, look, I gave my money, I bought a shirt, I did X, Y, and Z, and now I feel better having done that. But it doesn't move the needle. It gets people more popular. It don't need to be popular enough to steal money from the community. And if you bring it up, and we talked about this several times, you're just a hater. And it's just like, no, it's just not going to work. It's not going to work because this person doesn't have the experience, um, and they're obviously just playing off our pain. And I think that's probably the worst person that you can be in the community. Like, I think that's worse than the murderer, worse than the drug dealer.
I
I
do
wouldn't say
too.
murderer. I'll bring back murder,
I
but
think
worse
it
than the drug
is.
dealer,
I
worse
think it
than
is.
because you're playing off somebody's like generational trauma to be successful on your terms. That's crazy. Like, you talking about no snitching. Like, it should be something give back for the person like that. You know?
I'm saying I agree because there's no justification for it. You can justify a murder.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like even if you disagree with the person's reasoning, they can justify a murder.
Right. For
I
that
can't
person, like, no.
justify deceiving you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. For the
No
purpose
justification for it. Yeah.
of stealing the money from you.
Yeah, there's no reason
For people who
why that
don't
makes
have the
sense.
money, assumingly,
Yeah.
or who want to hope. Yeah. So yeah, be careful. Be careful out there, folks.
Man, listen, it's I was reading the fight. It's embarrassing that this is actually happening.
Mm-hmm,
It is
mm-hmm.
there's literally a note that says the there's a line item on the balance sheet, I believe it was, that says
My bad.
no, well, basically, but it says cash. It says like
Mm-hmm,
it's like cash. It shows you how much cash,
mm-hmm.
like cash contributions. I can't remember what it is, but
Right.
and then there's a note directly underneath that says this cash was used solely to fund our net loss.
Mm.
So you took a million, whatever, a million eight of investor capital, right? Because
To pay the debt.
I feel like investor in these situations, investor capital should not be subject to operating expenses.
Mm-hmm,
If
mm-hmm.
I have a company and I'm raising money, my money, like the if you're soliciting me, my money should not be used to operate the business.
Right. Right.
That should come from your portion of the money,
Mm-hmm.
right? So my money should be used in the scalability, the investment,
Mm-hmm.
right, to bring in more money so you can pay me back,
Yeah.
right? So the cash that came in, because it doesn't come from anywhere else but investor capital. They've only made 300,000 or 240,000 in 3 years. So
Mm-hmm.
if you have a million eight, 1 million point or $1.8 million, that's investor capital
Mm-hmm.
that you used
To
to
fund lifestyle.
fund exactly to
You
fund the
use to
purchase
fund
of your new home, the way you live, your wife's salary, and your salary,
Mm-hmm.
and your marketing budget to a company that you own. And I just don't see how. I feel like the only reason why this person is not in jail is because the people that they cater to are below the poverty line and they don't know how to do it.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's crazy that you would pay. Well, all of it's crazy, but specifically, what's crazy that you would pay yourself a salary and you didn't do the
You
work.
didn't make no money.
It's weird. I mean, it's common practice that when you start a business, you don't pay yourself until it's profitable. But if you're in a business of stealing money from people, oh, I got
You
all
don't
this
care
money,
about
this
that.
windfall of money. I'm gonna pay myself 250,000 a year. It's like, what? You didn't do anything yet. Yeah, see, that's just a trash person. You should be living on beans and rice until your investors actually make what you promised them.
You should not be doing that. you should be going and making yourself a valuable asset in your own life before you start taking people's money. That's
You
what you
should
should
already
be
have
doing.
a functioning life that's being paid by some source of income that your profession allows you.
To where you have a duplicatable system to produce the returns.
Right.
And when you're someone who's capable of sounding smart to a dumb person, it's
Mm-hmm.
very easy to, I won't say dumb, let's say ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to move them because a lot of it will be based on emotions,
Yeah, all of
right?
it.
And
Yeah.
he based the amount of money that they're raising on providing an 8% return. And so initially when I heard that, I'm automatically thinking, what's
Mm-hmm.
their average cost of capital? Nobody else is thinking that. I understand. But their average cost of capital. And what that means is the cost of debt and the cost of equity. The people who gave them money, that's equity. So if it's costing him 8% to use that money to fund deals, then you also have to incorporate the amount of money he's borrowing at whatever the interest rate is. And there's an equation to where you can figure out what the actual cost of capital is.
Mm-hmm.
And if that property doesn't provide, or that investment doesn't provide a sufficient return that meets or exceeds that number, then you know you can't do it because no one will get paid. That number shows you what it would cost to get everybody paid.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't know it. So you're
Actually, the
raising millions
math
of
is not
dollars.
mathing.
You raise millions of dollars and you don't even know. You
Mm-hmm.
don't know. You don't know what that number is. You don't know what your average cost of capital is.
Mm-hmm.
How would you know what deals make sense for you? Now we're haters because we're talking about it, and this is why black folks don't have nothing.
Rebuilding Black Wall Street. That's why.
I secretly want to fight him. I
This
can't.
why.
I want to fight that. I shouldn't say that. I kind of want to fight that dude just because, like,
I'm sure I know who you're talking about, and
yes, you do know
you had
who
a
I'm
whole
talking
rant on one episode that we just had to cut out.
about.
They just had to cut out. Just put that in the archives.
Man, yeah, it's not. I deleted it. It's non-existent. There's no
And
evidence.
we don't cut anything.
No.
That was a one thing. Like all this is usually it's just live, but not live, but it's just straight through. Like we'll cut out the pauses we might have, like the bathroom breaks or whatever, or
Yeah.
kids come in. But other than that, it's just like it is what it is. But yeah, that was one thing we had to cut out. Like you went kind of hard,
Because
like
it
super hard.
wasn't it. There was. I feel like there was no value in that
Yeah,
portion. Like this
yeah,
is different because we're actually talking through the
right.
scenario.
It was
There's
just
value
that
here.
was just ether. It
Yeah,
was
now
like
is that was just like you ugly.
right,
Like there's
right,
no like it's just, you know what I mean. There's nothing that comes from that. So
right.
um, but it was just funny though having that conversation with my mom, kind of talking through things,
Mm-hmm.
and she was like, when I told her about the whole Black Wall Street and how he was using that to raise money, she was like, "That's how they get you."
Mm-hmm.
And this is my mom. This is someone who's worked in this, in the school district for almost 30, well, longer than 30 years, but in this
Mm-hmm.
specific school district, almost 30 years.
Right, right.
And she's like, that's not right because she's like, I wouldn't give nobody no money like that. Like people like us don't need to be doing that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because we work too hard for that money.
Right. Yep.
And I was like, that is amazing
Yep.
to hear
Simple
somebody say
lessons.
that.
Simple
Yeah.
lessons.
And it's true though, because you
Plain,
work
plain and
so
simple
hard.
lessons.
You work so hard to put that, like the relationship between money and time, and you work so hard to put that money into your retirement or your savings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you lose that, it's literally robbed you of
Yeah, and
time.
they just walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Like that didn't work. Like nah, like our community is not some startup that you can just walk away from because it
No.
failed. And
Mm-mm.
I think that's what people aren't taking seriously. And which I talked about at the beginning of the podcast. I take very seriously people the amount of wealth people amass. And if they put that in your hands to secure it for the next generation, um, I take that very importantly.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not gonna make moves too quickly. We're gonna make sure it's the right property. We're gonna make sure it serves a certain their use case.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna make sure we have the best interest rate, based on what, you know, their file. So that just speaks to a person who just really doesn't care. They don't care about people.
Mm-hmm.
They're in it for themselves.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. So
Yeah, yeah. We probably want to wrap.
yeah, I
We've
think
been
we could I mean my bottle almost gone.
been at it for a while. Oh wow.
It's
Shout out,
almost
what is it,
gone.
brothers,
Bro brothers?
bro brothers.
Yeah. Let me see if I don't know if y'all can read it.
Yeah, they're gonna be friends of the podcast pretty soon.
We're brothers.
All right.
We're happy and we're singing and we're
They do look like that.
that's them. So yeah, we can go ahead and
All
wrap it
right.
up. I mean, we covered a lot today. It was very emotional.
Yeah.
But I
For
think
you,
we got a lot of good. Yeah, I mean, it's
I'm
always
like,
emotional for me.
I'm drunk and I'm mad.
I care too much about everything.
Nah, I get it.
Um, you know, we had a lot of good points. Make sure y'all like and subscribe. We don't have all the answers. I know if you come to our, come to somebody's podcast and it can sound like they're preaching, but I want to, because we're the only ones talking, of course. But either one of us, I can say like we'll be the first to tell you like we don't have all the answers.
No, I don't know. I'm,
You
I'm
know,
learning as I go too. I got a few things I know for sure though.
yeah. So anything you want to add to the conversation, or if anything struck a chord with you tonight, go or this morning because it'll be released Monday morning. Go ahead and drop it in the comments. Let's continue the
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah,
Um,
we'd love to hear from you.
yeah, it's episode 18. We got a few more shows on the way before we try and implement the whole season thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, anything else you want to add, Dorrance?
No, we're gonna have a new piece of content pretty soon. We're working on. It will be a different format, so we're gonna put that up. See how y'all enjoy that.
Mm-hmm.
Different from the talking head content that we usually do.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
So come back next week.
yeah, we'll catch y'all next week. Thanks for tuning in with us, and
Mm-hmm.
peace out.